fix it. Are we good? Are we here? Are we here? Are we good? I think we're good. Wow. Okay. Oh, you had to say it. Somebody said it. Like, hey, at least the camera isn't glitching this time. It is glitching. It is glitching, and we are having audio issues. It's falling apart. All right, guys. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new. Thank you so much for joining me today and for waiting patiently for the intro to finish up. I was saying boss looking as majestic as ever today. All right, so listen, I am very, very frustrated about the situation with the camera. I'm going to tell you why. I was messing with my camera all yesterday, all today, and it was perfectly fine. What you are seeing on your screen right now when it comes to the flickering was not a thing. This was not happening. I changed it. I unplugged it. I plugged it back in. I reset it. I downloaded any updates it needed. I did everything. It was not doing this. Okay, so I am extremely frustrated that it's doing this. I don't know if this means it's going to freeze again throughout the stream, but what I will say is this: if it does give me any problems today, like what we saw last time, I am going to purchase a new camera. I have one I was looking at. I just didn't pull the trigger yet because I wanted to see if this would sort itself out, if it would be fixed. Yeah, I don't know if it has something to do. I don't know if it has something to do with the actual like stream itself, but really, really annoying, man. Yeah, so hopefully it doesn't become a problem. You know, I'll just have to see if I freeze on screen. That was the problem we had last stream. I just every like 15, 20 minutes I kept freezing. Which one am I going to get? I'm looking at like the Logitech Brio. I think that's like a 4K camera. I from what I can tell, that one seems to be a go-to. Seems to be a pretty solid go-to camera, all-rounder. So I do apologize in advance for the flickering. If it becomes that problematic, just try to listen to the sound of my voice. You know, use a DLSR. I think they're more expensive, aren't they? They're like a lot more expensive usually, right? Maybe it's a long-term investment I can make one day. $3,000. That expensive? I mean, surely there has to be cheaper ones. And I froze. Holy shit, it's actually going to do this to me today. No way. Oh my God. Guys, you have to believe me. You have to. I know I'm frozen. You have to believe me. I tested this shit all day. I am literally about to smash this shit, bro. There ain't going to be no more camera because I'm going to make sure there's no more camera. I'm actually pissed off right now. This is some bullshit. I am actually mad, dude, because I was like, listen, when I'm testing it out yesterday, if it gives me any problems at all, I'm just going to buy a new one. Should be, you know, if I had done that, it probably would have been here today. I probably could have got something with same day delivery. And I was like, oh, look, it's fine. It must have just been a little glitched out. Now it's, now this is it. Go back to the old school streams. Dude, I don't know, man. I don't think people would accept it. All right, hold on. Do it, punch it, give in to your intrusive thoughts. I'm about to punch it, dude. Hold on, let me just smash it a little bit. Come on, you piece of shit. Stop breaking. All right, let me see if I set it straight this time. Hold on. Is it a Sony camera? No, it's a Razer camera. I think it's a couple years old. MBG versus camera. I wanted to dive into these damn topics, man, and this is going to get in my way. That's why Razer cam. Does Razer suck? I mean, I bought it years ago, so I wouldn't have known. All right, let's see. Uh-oh. Guys, I think I may have actually broken it. Oh my God. And Titus coming in while the screen is black saying, no worries, MBG, we're still dropping some membership gifts today. The sound of your voice will get us through. 5 memberships gifted by Titus. Thank you so much for that, my friend. King Sam with a 20-month member milestone. I'm gonna try to fix this in a minute. Just hang tight. He says, if you guys can get the member goal to 1,150, I'll drop a 50 bomb, guys. Can we do it? Let's go crazy. Platinum Sekiro MBG. My God, that escalated rapidly, King Sam. Dude, I don't know if they're gonna be able to do it, King Sam. I'm gonna be honest. It's such a lofty goal. We're talking hundreds of members. I don't know. We would need certain people here to make that happen. We would need certain people here to make that happen. But King Sam, if you want to drop a 50 bomb either way, I'll appreciate it. All right, how about this? I'll make a deal with you, King. Well, I don't know. You can reject this deal, King Sam. It's totally fine if you reject it. But it's because I feel like it's unrealistic to get to 1150 members today. But maybe what I can do, if you drop a 50 bomb, or if we get 50 members in total, I will do a Silent Hill 2 remake bonus gameplay stream after this stream. Potentially without a camera. This whole stream might end up being without a camera. God damn it. God damn this camera. Let's see if it's working or not. But Titus, thank you for the 5 bomb. And King Sam, thank you for the milestone chat, bro. Let me see if this is working yet. Oh, wow, look at that. Why does it look like that? Why is it... Oh, man, I must have really messed it up. It's all tilted. But, dude, Boss is just looking at the... He's just looking at the screen like... No way, dude. Like, can we just get a move on here so I can get some treats? Let's see what happens. I don't know. I smashed the shit out of it. So it's either fixed or it's not. Listen, I'm just going to put this out there now. If it keeps doing that, if it keeps freezing, I'm just going to try to put something else up on screen. And unfortunately, I'm going to have no choice but to do the stream not on camera, which is not what I want to do. But, I can't have the camera completely derail the show like it did last time. And what I can do is if we get 25 members or if we hit the 10 super chat goal, I'll turn it on temporarily because it'll probably only be on temporarily to feed Boss his new treats. Look, he got the big box of treats back there, bro. He got, what is it, the 30 ounces. It's his favorite kind. It's the backyard cookout. So guys, 10 super chats, 25 members. We're already 5 members in. And Boss can get some treats. Look at him. He knows. He's like, come on, guys. Let's make it happen. MBG, guess what? I ordered a VR2 bundle for $350. Had to pull the trigger. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, let me try to proceed normally here. Let me tell you what topics we're going to be talking about over the course of the stream. We're talking about some interviews that were conducted. We have Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino, co-CEOs of PlayStation, coming out, doing a round of interviews once again and saying almost nothing. I mean, goddamn, why are they even doing these interviews? Why are they doing these interviews? We will still cover it. I think there are a couple of things, maybe a couple of hints potentially, a couple of hints that that I think some PlayStation fans are going to latch onto. I've already been seeing some PlayStation fans latching onto it. Michael Lynch with a $5 super chat says, you have the power to not let it derail the conversation. If it messes up, just keep talking. Don't freak out about it freezing. I know. My own camera's trying to trigger me, Michael, and it's working. People don't have to worry about trolling me in the chat. My camera will do it for them. But yeah, no, I'm not going to let it derail the conversation today. Just do me a favor, Michael and everybody else. If it freezes again and I turn the camera off and people come in and they're asking where's MBG or what's going on, just let them know. Just let them know the camera's broken. All right. But we're going to talk about what Herman Hulst had to say. He talked about possibly reviving, maybe. I think people are jumping to conclusions here, but possibly reviving some classic PlayStation IP, or at least being open to it. He talked about their approach to live service and PC once again, And I'm seeing some people, I don't know, like acting like this is news, but still, it's something we'll go over. Hideaki Nishino talking about the console, the prioritization of the console, the future of the console. We're going to go over this stuff. We're also talking about Square Enix. We're talking about Square Enix and how they are not happy with PlayStation exclusivity. We have to have a conversation about this once again. Steven, you're saying, do I have to make a new camera fund? I may have to. You might have to, Steve. I'm not going to lie. You might have to. We might have to get a camera fund started. I might have to change the goal, bro. The goal is going to have to be less than 1,200, and it's going to have to be changed to new camera fund. Who made them sign the exclusivity deal? No, I know. We're going to have this conversation, though, because I just find it interesting what's going on with the whole situation with Final Fantasy PlayStation exclusivity, and there's just this constant back and forth of like, is exclusivity bad? Does Final Fantasy just suck now? I don't. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna dive deep into that conversation. We're gonna be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, man. The Switch 2 is leaking left, right, up, down, and center. Nintendo, you took too long, bro. Nintendo waited too long. They waited too long, and now everything's leaking. Apparently, we have the actual release date of the Switch 2 leaked. The actual release date. So we're going to talk about that as well. And we have some other bonus topics. Cypherpunk with the super chat says, dude, just create the content instead of asking people to pay for it. If you did a normal 8-hour stream like most streamers, you will get plenty of subs easy. I mean, I guess. I don't know. Is that what people do? I'll be honest with you, Cypherpunk. I don't watch other streamers, or I rarely ever come across other streamers. Is that a thing? Just stream 8 hours? You think that would? I thought about that before, but I'm like, I don't know that would work, man. I don't know that would work for me because it's like, dude, it's not that I would be against. I've done like 7 to 8 hour streams. I'm not against that. But the problem, in my opinion, with that is I run out of things to talk about by like the 3 hour mark, And people are like, bro, you're going on a Last of Us rant again. It's like, oh yeah, I am, aren't I? You're going on an Xbox rant again or something like that. I don't know. What are these streamers doing for the 8 hours? Are they just playing games the whole time? But listen, man, the only reason I ask is because, well, people are willing to support. I've always kind of been a believer in like, if you don't ask, you can't expect to receive anything. If you don't ask, nobody's going to know. I know that there are plenty of people who are going to donate no matter what, just for the sake of it. And I very much appreciate that. But I do want to encourage people because here's the truth, Cypherpunk. I'm putting a lot of, I am right now, and I will be putting a lot of effort into members content. That's the point. I'm going to be creating a lot of members content. And I just, I want to encourage people to gift those memberships, to become a member, to gain access to this content. If not, it's not a big deal. You're still going to get all this stuff for free. You're still going to get the videos. You're still going to get the regular streams. I feel like on my channel, we talk about topics. We talk about games somewhat in depth. I would say pretty in depth, more so than most people. I mean, I do play a lot of games. I mean, I thought about that, bro. I was like, should I just stream myself playing games the whole time? Should I do that? I thought about it, but I'm like, I think that would tank my channel, bro. I do. I think it would, because I don't think that's why people are here. We can watch you create your thumbnails. Dude, that would be funny. I thought about that as well. I'm like, yo, should I just like live stream myself recording videos? I think some people do that. But I'll try not to let it overtake Cypherpunk. I know it can be a bit much. You'd watch the gameplay streams more so than the talking. Interesting. Well, we will be doing, listen, we're going to be doing member gameplay streams. We will be doing regular gameplay streams as well. So it's not like all of my gameplay streams are just going to be exclusive to members. So I don't want people who are not members to think that. But members will get bonus exclusive gameplay streams. All right. So, Cypherpunk, either way, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I do want to... Oh, before I start with the first topic, Henry 3K says, how is the family doing, MEG? I hope they are well. I think 2024 was a good year for PlayStation. If 2024 is considered a low year, we can only rise up from here. PlayStation fans, rise up. King Sam wants those Sekiro streams. We'll see, bro. We'll see. Listen, we'll see. I'm feeling the energy. We'll see what 2025 brings, King Sam. Henry 3K, me and the family are doing well. I appreciate you asking, dude. I hope you and yours are doing well. Also, I'm actually going to be doing a dedicated stream, if not tomorrow, on the 31st. Okay, talking about my top games of 2024 and reviewing PlayStation in 2024. We're going to have an extensive stream and conversation about that. So keep that in mind, Henry 3K. I hope you tune into that. All right, so let's dive into the first topic here. And this is going to be about the revival of some classic PlayStation IP. This is something that people have been begging Sony to do for a long time now. And it seems like, you know, with this new interview with Herman Hulst, I've talked to you guys, Herman Hulst seemingly doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything about anything, like, ever. He's just so by the book. It's just PR training, and it's just the same. He's just kind of repeating the same things he's already said. And to be fair, he does kind of do that in this interview. But there was one thing in particular he said that seemed to be noteworthy. I'm going to read that to you in just a minute. Let me just bring it up here. Give me one moment. All right. So this was actually reported on by VGC. PlayStation's boss says it's open to reviving classic franchises. Now, here's the thing. VGC, this was the first article I came across. This was the first reporting I came across of this. And I don't know, man. I think they might have been I don't want to say clickbaiting. It's not clickbait, but I think their title is a little bit misleading. Just a little bit misleading. And I'll explain why in a moment. Cypherpunk, you're saying what this means is GTA Trilogy style remasters, LOL. Oh, please, God. I hope when you say GTA Trilogy style, I really hope you mean the updated version, the corrected version, the fixed version, bro. To be fair, I think PlayStation fans would love that, Cypherpunk. I do. I think PlayStation fans would actually welcome, please, Sony, give me a GTA Trilogy style Killzone, Resistance, Trilogy, whatever. I think PlayStation fans would be blown away by that. Steven Leon with a $50 super chat. Steven says, it begins. I got you. Camera fund started. Boss looks like he's ready for treats. He's ready for his treats. Steven, thank you so much, bro. This will definitely help contribute to the new camera fund because God knows I'm going to need it. And Steven, I will give him a couple treats. I'll give him a couple just because you dropped a $50 super chat, all right? Boss, I can only give you a little bit. That's it for now. Just gave him like 2 or 3 treats. It's a little appetizer for him. Steven, thank you so much for the super chat. Henry 3K saying, please consider doing the direct donations so he gets most of the money. I mean, I prefer people to do whatever they're comfortable with. You know, it is true there is a direct donation link, but you want to do that, you want to do super chats, whatever floats your boat, man. I appreciate either or. It means a lot. You guys are awesome. It didn't work when you tried it. Not a big deal, man. Yeah, I don't want people to get stressed out over it. The idea of GTA-style trilogy remasters, bro, coming from Sony. I mean, would you guys be opposed to that? Would you be opposed to the idea of Sony being like, look, we're not going to like do a full-blown reboot of Killzone or Resistance or, I don't know, even something like, what is it? What's that? Why can't I think of it, guys? It's a racing game. Motorstorm? Is that it? And Steven drops a 10 bomb. Steven's like, bro, we gotta keep going with this camera fund. He's dropping 10 more membership gifts. Steven, thank you so much for that, buddy. That brings us up to 661 members. And guys, like I said, if we hit 50 members today, we will be doing a bonus Silent Hill 2 remake stream after this stream today. Okay, so if you want to see me play some Silent Hill 2 remake, I'm getting back into that. We hit 50 members, we'll make that happen today. We're at 15, by the way. I'll keep you guys updated. We're at 15 members on the day. So, Steven, thank you so much for that. An Infamous 1 and 2 remaster collection. Dude, I'm telling you, I think PlayStation fans would go crazy for this. I think PlayStation fans would go crazy for that because, you know what? It's like, we'll take what we can get from Sony at this point, man. I'm shocked Sony hasn't done something with MotorStorm yet. MotorStorm is a game that we don't really talk about that often, but the first game I ever played on the PS3, by the way, was actually at a GameStop. It was at a GameStop, and it was at the kiosk. It was MotorStorm. Josh Z with a $10 chat. He says, part of the problem is Square Enix still thinks that they are as popular as Nintendo and others, like they were in the early days, but they are more niche popular. Just facts. RPG is a crowded genre too. Damn, Josh. Sounds like you need to pay Square Enix a visit. You need to be part of that boardroom and you got to just let them know. You got to let them know, hey, your expectation sales for your game's sales are here. They need to be here. All right, it's just the reality of it. Doesn't matter whether it's exclusive or not. The expectations are too high. I do agree with you, Josh, and we're going to talk about that very soon. I have quite a bit to say about the whole Final Fantasy exclusivity situation, but generally speaking, I do agree with what you're saying here. I do think that Square Enix's mentality is not aligned with the reality that I think that they are currently facing. Am I trying to platinum Silent Hill 2? I actually am. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I'm trying. I'm going to try. I got a long way to go. Josh, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We will be talking about this topic extensively in a little bit. GLP Gamer says, thanks for the membership. Yeah, anybody who gets gifted a new membership, keep in mind you have access to all the members' content. We're doing members' lounges now. We're doing gameplay streams. We're doing Morning with the Misses. We're doing it all. So go check that out. Michael, you're saying with Final Fantasy, it's not niche. It's like a worldwide massive series. Well, I mean, that's the thing, dude. You know, we might be jumping around a little bit here with the topic, so forgive me if we're just try to keep up. You know, we're going to be kind of ping-ponging over here. When it comes to Final Fantasy, I see a lot of people refer to like Final Fantasy 15 and previous games that have released and how well those games sold. And it's like, I understand that is the logical thing to do, but we do have to kind of keep in mind that like, that was a long time ago. You know what I mean? That was a long time ago. That's not, you know, things are different now. Like the truth is the Final Fantasy IP just might not have the same strength that it once had. You know, that does happen. IPs do diminish in relevance and popularity. And there doesn't necessarily have to be one specific reason for that. And to be fair, I think Final Fantasy is still a very popular IP. I do think it's still very popular. It is obviously one of the most well-known and well-established IPs. But I do think that there is this idea that, well, if our last game sold X amount of copies, you know, if 15 sold this amount and it was Multiplat, then, you know, the reason why we're only 3/10 of that now is because it's exclusive. And it's like, I don't know that that logic really lines up as well as you think it does. Like, I think the reality is Final Fantasy 16 was never going to sell as well as 15. I just think that's the reality. I think that when you look at the PC release, it's not that it did horrible. I mean, it did some numbers, but it's pretty clear that, like, dude, I mean, I don't know what we were like. What was the expectation here exactly? You know, and the most comical thing is when I hear people talk about it going to Xbox. Like, I say this as somebody where I think Square Enix should put this game on Xbox. Final Fantasy 16 should be on Xbox at this point. You know, even if they want to take Final Fantasy 7 and put that on Xbox, do it. But there's no way anybody actually believes that that's going to change anything, right? Right? like, I feel like you'd have to be at a certain level of delusion to actually believe that these games being available to purchase on Xbox is going to make any difference. The best thing I think Square Enix could hope for is getting the bag from Microsoft for Game Pass. I don't know if that would ever be allowed to happen due to certain like contractual agreements between them and Sony, but I think that's the best thing they could hope for. Get the bag, get the Game Pass bag. But yeah, man, I don't think Final Fantasy is going to, at this point in time, sell well at all on Xbox. See, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if you want Final Fantasy to sell well, you put it on Switch. You put it on Switch. Now, I don't think FF6. I mean, it's obvious. FF16 and Rebirth, and even probably Remake, they can't play on Switch. But Switch 2, see, Switch 2, I think that's when we're talking. I think Switch 2 changes everything. I think if Square can get these games on the Switch 2, I think I don't know if they'll still reach the lofty sales ambitions that they have, but I think they'll have a real chance. I think they'll have a real chance. That combined with the sales they got on PlayStation, I think it could work. But like I said, we're going to kind of be going back and forth with these topics. I do want to get back to talking about what Hermen Hulst had to say. Let me read the quote. So we're talking about PlayStation co-CEO Hermen Hulst saying that he's opening to revisiting its back catalog of classic game franchises. Now, I did say the article that I got this from, that being VGC, I do believe they are being a little bit misleading here. They say PlayStation boss says it's open to reviving classic franchises. Here's what Hermen Hulst said. Quote, the various IPs that we own are an important asset to PlayStation, and as part of our efforts to strengthen our portfolio, we are continually looking at opportunities to leverage past IP as well as develop new franchises. Our goal is to publish games by the world's best creators, both inside and outside of PlayStation, and we have achieved many successes so far by working closely with external development studios. I think Hermen is trying to communicate a message here. We are going to decipher what Hermen Hulst is saying. The reason why, though, I will say before that, I think this article is a little bit misleading is because he didn't say this. Okay? We got to just call it for what it is. Hermen Hulst did not say we are open to reviving IP. He did not use the word revive. So I think when people read a headline like this, and to be fair, I'm kind of playing into it as well. So I'm guilty as well. But we do have to, as we get all of the context here, distinguish what's really being said. What's really being said is exactly this. He's saying we are continually looking at opportunities to leverage past IP. I mean, he also talks about Astrobot right after this. He could be talking about that. That's them leveraging past IP. What we just saw with Helldivers 2 and the Killzone 2 crossover, that's leveraging past IP. So what I think Hermen is trying to say here, though, because I want to pay close attention to this, he says we are continually looking at opportunities to leverage past IP as well as develop new franchises. But then he immediately talks about external studios. Our goal is to publish games by the world's best creators, both inside and outside of PlayStation. We have achieved many successes so far by working closely with external development studios. Here's what I think Hermen's saying, dude. I think Hermen, if we read between the lines, if we're picking up what Hermen's putting down, I think he's trying to say we're going to start licensing these IP to external devs. That's what I think he's saying. I'm not sure why he would line those two things up like that if he's not trying to communicate that, or at least hint at that. Notice how when he says leverage past IPs, he doesn't talk about PlayStation Studios. He doesn't talk about their internal teams. He follows it up by talking about how we've had great success working with external partners. So I think what we're likely to see, and I would be surprised if we didn't see this, because I think it's worth exploring. If you're PlayStation at this point in time, you know Naughty Dog doesn't want to make Uncharted. You know Guerrilla doesn't want to make Killzone. You know Polyphony Digital isn't going to make MotorStorm. You know this. Go out there and see which other, maybe they could even work with another publisher, dude. You know? Work with independent studios. I mean, there was a rumor a while back And I don't know if any of this is going to turn out to be true, but there was this rumor that Sony was apparently willing to license some of their IP to Sega. Sega's going to be making certain PlayStation games. I mean, we haven't heard anything about that, but these are different ways in which Sony could actually go back and revive their past IP. You know, you don't have to force it on the studios that created it necessarily. I mean, think about like Sly Cooper. I mean, Sucker Punch made it clear, like, we're not making another Sly Cooper, man. But you have to imagine there is a studio out there that absolutely would jump at the opportunity to make a new Sly Cooper. And they, whether or not they would do a good job, depending on the studio, I mean, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, man, I think this is just easy money for Sony. I think Sony is just sitting on a gold mine of intellectual property, and they're not doing enough with it. And I think what they need to do is be more willing to seek out teams, seek out partners that are, you know, going to do something with these games. But I will say one of the reasons Sony's probably so nervous about doing this or trepidatious and they haven't expressed much interest in it is probably because they're afraid of the quality, right? They're afraid, like, look, man, we don't want bad games. Like, I don't think, and I think everybody feels that way. Like, we don't want MotorStorm The Return or Killzone or Resistance or SOCOM or any of these titles. We don't want a Jack and Daxter or Sly Cooper. We don't want any of these games if they're going to be like half-assed or mediocre. You know? I think that that's completely understandable, where it's like you got to not only trust external teams, but you have to trust that they're going to be able to deliver on, you know, games that already have an established expectation. So it's risky. Yeah, I mean, they did do some of this. They seemingly did do some of this with like Sumo Digital. You know, I mean, we look at something like Lego Horizon. I mean, that's licensed out, right? But we haven't really seen them do this with their classic IP, with their older IP or their dormant IP. And that's what I think could change. Yeah, the Twisted Metal game apparently got canceled. So listen, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to, you know, jump to conclusions, but it's just, I find it very peculiar the way in which Herman Hulst is talking about this, the way in which he's kind of setting it up like, you know, hey, we're looking to leverage our old IP whenever we can. And to be fair, he hasn't said anything about this previously. This is like a new thing. This is a new thing. And I think that that's worth pointing out. Is like we've covered past interviews, even this year, with Herman Hulst, and he really hasn't said anything about that. So I think this was said intentionally. I think bringing this up was intentional. I think the timing of this interview, alongside the Killzone 2 collaboration, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think Sony's just trying to kind of gently start to put it out there that, hey, we're going to start doing more here. We're going to start doing more here. Collecting nostalgia bucks isn't a bad idea overall. There are many games stuck in the past mentally. Many gamers stuck in the past mentally. Why not monetize them? I mean, yeah, it's easy money, dude. And I think, to be honest, I think any gamer who's kind of in that nostalgic way where like they want to go back to these older games and they want to see newer renditions of these games, I think that they would be happy too. I think it's just an easy win-win. You don't think he necessarily means games. That's a good point, Josh. That's actually a really good point. We should consider that when he's talking about reviving classic IP, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a game, which I think is, you know, I would assume he would clarify that, but considering the way PlayStation is approaching their growing of their IP, I think that makes sense that he could potentially be talking about. I mean, wasn't there a rumor, or I don't even know if it was confirmed, but I feel like it was a rumor that there was going to be they're working on a Jack and Daxter movie. And that's like, I don't know, man. I feel like that's one of those slippery slopes where it's like, I don't think you should do that unless you know you can have a game. Maybe it's not going to be from Naughty Dog, but from somebody. You know, or like a remaster collection, something, you know what I mean? Something. You got to have something. I feel like I feel like if they just come out and they're like, yeah, we're just doing a Jack and Daxter movie starring Tom Holland, which again, I don't know. I think there was a rumor that claimed that. I feel like, I don't know. I actually feel like people would be kind of annoyed. I'm going to be real. I feel like people would actually be annoyed. Like, Sony, you're going to do a Jack and Daxter movie, but not a game? Not even a remaster? But yeah, you could absolutely be right, Josh. We could be looking at a situation where Herman, I should say, is not just talking exclusively about video games. He could be talking about many other forms of entertainment and media. And I mean, I'll be honest, like one of the first things that did pop into my mind when I read this is I was thinking of the Killzone 2 collab with Helldivers, and I was thinking of all of the cameos in Astrobot. So I guess I see my camera froze. I guess the hope is they're not just talking about that, or that he's not just talking about that. Let me see if I can just fix that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll start hearing a little bit more. Hopefully we'll start hearing a little bit more from Herman about how they're planning on doing this rollout potentially of leveraging past IP. Now, there were a couple of other things that Herman mentioned. I want to have another discussion here. Okay, so something else Herman mentioned in his interview. Well, we have two different things here. Okay, so Luna, be good. So the first thing is an interview with Hideaki Nishino, where it says here. Before that, though, we have a super chat from Elite Dude. He says, heard a rumor where Microsoft was trying to revive games like Deadpool and Transformers Fall of Cybertron. And you're saying this is for the camera fund, LMAO. Well, thank you. Thank you, Elite Dude. Yes. Appreciate the contribution. I didn't come across that rumor. I wouldn't be surprised if they were to try to do that. I mean, Deadpool, I could see that. Yeah. Given the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, I could absolutely see Microsoft trying to do something there, but I don't know. These are all games that were developed and published by Activision prior to the acquisition, so we'll have to see if there's any truth to this, man. We'll have to see if there's any truth to it. The focus of Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation remains on the home consoles, according to co-CEO Hideaki Nishino. During a recent interview with Famitsu, Sony Interactive Entertainment co-CEO Hideaki Nishino was asked about predictions regarding future home consoles being on the cloud instead of hardware, and about his perspective of the possibility of such structural changes for PlayStation. In his response, Nishino stated that as of today, many users are playing PS4 games and the number of PS5 games is also increasing. He does not expect things to suddenly change on that front anytime soon, and he believes home consoles will definitely be the core of the company's business for a while. However, Nishino mentioned that different ways of playing, such as PC, are also increasing. Therefore, Sony Interactive Entertainment is in the process of figuring out how to increase the overall number of PlayStation users, including PlayStation Network users. He pointed towards the possibility of cloud gaming with PS Portal running PS5 games, and how that may lead to the misconception that gaming has already entered the cloud era. However, he explained that users still need a controller and a display at hand, and therefore he doesn't believe that hardware will disappear anytime soon. As for the length of the PS5's life cycle, Nishino believes that the console will be around for a long time, just like the PS4. However, he does not think it's right to delay the release of the company's next console that incorporates new technology because of this. The timing of introducing new hardware is related to the timeline of technological evolution and the timeline for Sony Interactive Entertainment to implement it. So there's a couple of things to point out here. Number one, the reiteration of the console focus. I want to talk about this because I'm telling you, man, there are too many people who are chiming into these conversations and they do not understand what's happening, or they're not seeing it as clearly as they should. And I want to talk about what's going on here, because there's a second quote, there's a follow-up quote from Herman Hulst where he talks about bringing games to PC, and people believe that there is some conflict going on here. Before I read that Herman Hulst quote, though, I do want to point out that Hideyaki Nishino also basically hinted at when we can expect the PlayStation 6, although I think everybody's expecting it in 2028, but he basically was saying that, the generation for the PS5 will be about as long as the PS4 was. That's essentially what he said there. But I want to focus on another quote that came from, I believe, Herman Hulst, if I can find it. So Herman Hulst said, quote, live service titles are released on multiple platforms, so attracting new players and increasing the number of players is key to their success. Therefore, maintaining the momentum at the time of release and penetrating a wide range of players is especially important in the live service field. Single-player games are an important element in enhancing the appeal of the PlayStation platform, and we set strategic sales periods for each title. While consoles remain our core business, expanding to platforms such as PC will enable us to offer our games to more people. We always prioritize providing the best experience to our players, and as part of that, we are also promoting the linking of PSN accounts on PC. So this is where the whole conversation pops up once again, where what is going on with Sony? Are they like, are consoles dead? Do people care about consoles? Or is it over? Like, you know, are they just going to go full PC? Is there even a point in owning a PlayStation? Well, I want to point this out first and foremost, because this is something that I've seen over and over and over again for many, many, many years. Okay? The first thing I want to acknowledge is people who say there's no point in owning a console. There's no reason to own this console. There's no reason to buy this console. We need to understand something. You are speaking for yourself. That's so important to understand, because here's the reality. And yes, this does extend to Xbox. I don't know why people think that when I say things like this, I'm only talking about PlayStation. I'm not. I'm talking about all hardware. That does include the Xbox console. The reality is that while many people in the world may look at a console such as the Xbox console or even the PlayStation console or maybe even the Switch, whatever, it doesn't matter. Put any console there. They may look at it and they may say, you know, I don't really see a point. I don't see a point. There's no reason for me to have this. It's important to understand that there are still going to be millions of people who are going to say, I want to have this. And I want to follow this up by saying I don't understand how so many people involved in these conversations, they completely downplay the significance of a console selling 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 million units. People who are involved in these conversations when we're talking about PlayStation in this instance, right? The PlayStation is going to go on to sell 70 million units very soon, probably. But it seems clear that the PS5 is going to go on to sell 80 million, 90 million. Likely it will cross the 100 million sold threshold at some point in time. When people chime in and they say things like, nobody cares about the console's dying, the console's irrelevant, Sony's killing the console, Sony's moving on from the console, blah, 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 blah. They're speaking from a place of true ignorance, in that you have no idea, not even an inkling, how valuable 75 million console owners is to any video game company. Literally, any video game company. Do you know how valuable 75 million Xbox users, Xbox console players would be to Microsoft right now? Do you have any idea how valuable that would be? Do you have any idea how valuable the 25 to 30 million Xbox console players that they have right now is to them? It's not the most valuable to Microsoft, but this is why. This is why when people are like, bro, Xbox, this is fun. This is how I know people are not paying attention to the conversations, because this is somehow going to turn into me defending Xbox. But it's like, dude, people not realize, like the people who are like, dude, Xbox is dead. it's dead. And to be fair, it's hard not to kind of like look at it that way when they're literally saying like, yeah, we're going to bring our games to PS5. But here's the reality. It's not. It's not. You can say it's lacking. You can say it's not growing. You can say it's regressing. You can use any term that gets the point across that they're not going up, they're slowly going down. But you cannot say it is dead because it's not dead. Did you ever hear the saying, it's not over till it's over? And that's the reality, man. That's the reality, is Microsoft is still going to make another console because there is genuinely value in even just 10 to 15 million people buying that console. If there are 10 million people walking this planet that say, I don't care about PlayStation, and I don't care about PlayStation games, and I don't care about Nintendo, and I don't care about Nintendo games, and I don't care about playing on PC, I want to play on my Xbox console. If there are 10 million people who are willing to say that, you better believe Microsoft is going to say, then you know what? We will sell you that console. Just make sure you're subscribed to Game Pass and make sure you're turning it on, hopefully every day. There is value there to Microsoft, hence why they are not, even though they are, I mean, we could say, yes, the Xbox console is dying. We can say that. They're not taking it out back. You know, they're not giving up on it fully in the way that people make it sound like they are, because there's still money to be extracted from valuable customers. Now, the way in which they're going about it, that's where things change. This is where I try to tell people, listen, you cannot look at the way things are being handled by Microsoft in the console space and impose that onto PlayStation, superimpose that onto PlayStation. Like, this is what Xbox is doing, right? This is how they're handling it. So therefore, this is how PlayStation either is handling it or will handle it. And it's like, okay, hold on. We are talking about the difference of tens of millions of customers, valuable customers who are willing to spend quite a bit of money. This is why I try to explain to people over and over again that Sony will go to PC. They are going to PC. They are expanding. They are seeking out. They straight up tell you we're seeking out new users and new customers. They will do that while simultaneously saying, but we're going to try to prioritize, or we still are prioritizing the console. Here's what Sony is saying. The console is making us the most amount of money. It has made us the most amount of money, and it's seemingly going to continue to make us the most amount of money. But we are a publicly traded company seeking growth. So whatever amount of money we're making, we need to increase it. So if we can't increase it through the current customer base of 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 million users, then we need to find another way to do that. And we need to make sure that when we find that other way, it's not going to come at the expense of those valuable customers that are, you know, that this is how we're making all this money. So that's why it's like when people have these conversations and try to analyze, like, what is Sony doing? They jump to conclusions that honestly, even if they do make sense, they are lacking critical context. That context actually means everything. And in this case, when we're talking about console sales, we're talking about console sales, the console market, and bringing your titles to other places like PC and whatnot. You cannot treat 70 million units sold, 60 million units sold, like it's just, whatever. It's not important anymore. Like, no, you have no idea what you're talking about. If you were in charge of this brand, you would probably tank it instantly if that's actually what you believed. But you know what? That's the thing. If any of these people who were saying these things, if they were in a board meeting with Sony, or they had all these spreadsheets in front of them, and they were to see, here's how much money this console has made us, and the users on this console have made us. The number one thing you would think is, okay, how do we preserve that and make sure that doesn't diminish? There are people who take it to the extreme, though. There are people who are like, well, Sony's got to go back to the old ways, right? They got to go back to like true exclusivity. They need to stop doing anything on PC. And I'm telling you, the people who are stuck in that mindset, they do not understand. There's like people on both sides of the spectrum here, like the extremes, right? Those people don't understand that, guys, like things are not going back to the way they were. I don't know how anybody can think that at this point in time. Like, I don't know how anybody can think that. Like, people point to Nintendo, but it's like, do you not realize Nintendo is literally in their own league? They're playing their own game in their own league, and that's the way it's been for a long time. That's the way it's going to be until it just doesn't work for them anymore. Then you know what Nintendo's probably going to do if it ever doesn't work for them anymore. What do you think they're going to do? The same thing that everybody else is going to have to do once things stop working for them. It just seems like people are too interested in trying to play the I'm going to predict the future and be right game rather than actually seeing what's going on in front of us and looking at the facts and just listening to what Sony's actually telling you. It's like, Hideaki Nishino and Herman Hulst are like, listen, we're prioritizing the console, but we're looking to expand to the PC space and make more money and find new users there as well. And it's like people are like, well, that doesn't make sense. I don't believe you. You're not prioritizing the console. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they actually are. Like, Spider-Man 2 is still exclusive to the PS5 right now. You can only play the Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 right now. You could only play it on the PS5 for the last year. And that's why it's so funny to me when it's like, you see people, they come out and they're like, well, there's no point in owning a PS5 because if I buy a PC, I can play everything on it. It's like, okay, and then if there's no point in owning a PS5, then why are tens of millions of people still buying PS5s? Why are millions and millions of people still buying these consoles if there's no point in owning them? The reality is going to dawn on people eventually, hopefully, that people, the vast majority of console players buy consoles because it's the more convenient option and it's just what they prefer for one reason or another. Whether it be because it's just easier and simpler, whether it be because of exclusives or not, or maybe it's just the level of investment they made with their games library. I just think that, these conversations, they will continue to persist, and that it seems like people are just missing, they're not seeing the forest for the trees, man. Benino, I'm sorry, man. I almost missed your chat here. You're saying, MBG, blame Jim Ryan. He says consoles aren't enough. It's not Jim Ryan, dude. Like, the truth is, it doesn't matter who's in the position of PlayStation CEO. It could be Jim Ryan, could be Herman Hulst, Hideaki Nishino, could be Shawn Layden right now. Shawn Layden would be under the exact same pressure, and I don't think people realize that. There's a reason why when these brands, when they reach a certain threshold of success, there's a reason why a lot of these executives end up leaving. Because they know there's going to be even more pressure now. Listen, I got us up to this point. The shareholders expect us to get up to this point, and this was hard enough to get here. I'll let the next guy figure out how they're going to get up to the next rung on that ladder, So the truth is, the pressure that's there for the executives was going to be there no matter who was in charge. The only thing that would change is the strategy potentially. But when you look at Sony's strategy, I don't know, man. It seems to be working. Like, that's the thing that kind of blows my mind about so many of these different conversations that I happen to see people having on, whether it be Twitter or forums or YouTube comment sections, where it's like everybody is constantly arguing about what's right, what's wrong, what's working, what's not. And it's like, dude, listen, let's just look at the facts right now. The fact of the matter is, Sony is out here saying we are selling the same amount of consoles right now at this point in time as we did during the PS4 generation, the second most successful console generation PlayStation ever had. We're keeping pace with a more expensive console with less exclusives. All right. So there's like even less incentive at this point in time, yet it's still keeping pace. What does that tell you? Tells you people still like the PlayStation console. For one reason or another, they still like it. They're still buying it. Okay. So we're also putting games on PC, more games than ever before at a faster rate than ever before. Basically, we are slowly but surely porting all of our back catalog of games, and even some of our newer games like Helldivers 2 and live service games are going day and date. It's working. Okay, so I can only assume, based off of what everybody has said, that as Sony is doing this, surely PS5 console sales have hit a wall and stopped or reduced dramatically. They did not. Those are the facts, man. And even I'm sure even Sony is a little bit like, oh shit. Sony's probably sitting there thinking we could have been doing this the whole time. I bet you that's what they're thinking. They're probably thinking to themselves, we could have been doing this the whole time, and people still would have bought our consoles. Because keep in mind, Sony was not the one who made the rules when they entered the game, dude. When Sony entered the console market, there was already kind of an established expectation. Be a third major, platform for third parties, but you also got to make your own games now. And Bobby Means comes in and re-ups his membership. Bobby Means, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I do appreciate you re-upping your membership, buddy. Please look forward to your exclusive member perks. Just like Xbox, the big question we don't have the answer to right now is like, think of it like this. If Xbox were to, at this point in time, no. Prior to the Activision Blizzard acquisition, let's put the Activision acquisition aside for a moment. If they decided to go back to their roots and be like, we're going back to exclusives, like hardcore exclusives, and really pushing the console, would that have saved them? Would Xbox have gone on to sell 70, 80, 90 million, 100 million units? I mean, that's a tough question to answer, man, because I feel like the answer is, it feels like it's an impossible question to answer, dude. Here's what I can tell you. I can tell you this. If they did succeed in selling that many console units with the Xbox One or even the Xbox Series, they would have never bought Activision Blizzard. Because there wouldn't have been any reason to. But then again, if that was the case, Game Pass would have never been created. So this is why kind of going down that rabbit hole of like what ifs, it's no different, or I would say it's just as potentially destructive as going down the rabbit hole of future what ifs. Nobody knows, but what we can only work with what we know right now, and what we know right now is that when it comes to the home console, there is a place for it, and there will seemingly continue to be a place for it because there is a market for it. We could say that market is shrinking. We could say that market is not as relevant as it once was, but what we can't say is that market is weak and invaluable, or invaluable is the wrong word. We can't say that it lacks value. It's the opposite. That market actually probably, you're talking about the most loyal customers that are willing to spend the most amount of money. So if anything, it's kind of the opposite. But the truth is that, and I think that this is what it boils down to, when you have to ask yourself, why is Sony pursuing PC? Why is Sony trying to expand beyond the home console? It's simply because the home console, it hit a ceiling. The ceiling for the potential home console market has been hit, man. And that ceiling is based not just on users. It's not just users, but also money. Users and money. Yeah, it's like, listen, man, we've maxed out the amount of people that are going to be willing to not only go out and buy these consoles, but spend money on games and accessories and all this stuff. That's why the focus now from the business side is, well, can we get more money from our current customers? And the answer to that is yes. We have yet to see what the limit of that looks like. There is a limit, but it's just that the ceiling has been hit, man. And if Sony wants to continue to grow their user base, we need more people logged into PlayStation Network. We need more people making PlayStation Network accounts. And hopefully, eventually, we get more people onto our storefront, buying more of our games, and just engaging in any way, shape, or form with the PlayStation brand. This is the way they're going to do it. But the only thing I guess the main point I'm trying to make here is people, I think, need to realize that there is still an immense value in the home console market. It is unfortunate that Xbox is not able to as successfully tap into that value as, say, Sony is or Nintendo, but that doesn't mean it lacks the value inherently. You know? It's there. Believe me. Believe me, it's there. Devil Shooter, you disagree? Well, why do you disagree? I'm curious. Why do you disagree? Raichi says exclusives are important. Look at the fanboys. Persona was the hottest stuff on of the decade. Now PS fans don't even care about Persona because others can play it. Well, you know, if there's one thing that I am definitely looking forward to dying out, is this false notion, and it is a false notion, at least in the way that people have propagated it, right? This false notion that if a game is exclusive, it's inherently better. No. Can a game that is made for one platform benefit and therefore be somewhat better in the final product because it had more time for better optimization, it had maybe more financial support? Yes. These things can be true. And I think we've seen that. But the thing I am ready to see die is the notion of a game inherently being better. You know, it's like Silent Hill 2 Remake, for example. Dude, this is a game I'm playing right now, and I'm excited to see this game go to Xbox. I'll be honest, it's unfortunate that it's going to take a whole year. Like, I think it would have been fine as like a 6-month timed exclusive, but I'm excited to see this game go to Xbox because it's like, dude, this game is awesome. And, you know, so this is not a Sony first-party studio. This game was going to come to Xbox no matter what. Sony did money had it, and I don't have a problem with that either. But it's just like the game is not inherently better because it's not on Xbox right now. It would have been this good either way. You could make the argument we would have had to wait a little bit longer to get it. I will say that. So rather than it releasing in October, maybe it wouldn't have come out until like March of next year. Maybe they would have needed that extra dev time to do a full multi-plat release on both consoles. But that notion, I'm ready to die because it's like, listen, there are very specific cases in which games being exclusive can reap benefits that games that are not exclusive struggle with those benefits, or maybe those benefits are just non-existent. I'm going to read these super chats. I just want to read Devil Shooter saying MEG console paid online, fading physical out. Yeah, that I will say that does suck. Meager year exclusives, no emulation or slow BC solution, still no stable 60 FPS. Well, yeah, I mean, there are definitely some things I can agree with you here. I think maybe what I should have clarified, Devil Shooter. When I say that there's value in the console, I actually was speaking from the perspective of the platform holder. From the customer perspective, that I don't feel like I am at liberty to definitively tell you or anybody else, hey, there is value in this console. That's not for me to determine for you. You know what I mean? Like if I encountered somebody on the street and they were like, you know what, man, I don't see any value in the PS5. I think that's a worthless piece of shit console. I'd knock that motherfucker. No, I'm just kidding. If somebody came up to me and said that, I'd say, you know what, man, that's cool. Where do you play? Like, I play on PC, man. PC's where it's at. That's the best place to play. I got everything there. I'm like, that dude, I'm so happy that you're happy about that. That's great. Like, that's awesome. You can play over there and enjoy that. Yeah, to each their own, man. I still like my PS5. You know? I still like my PS5. Doesn't mean it's perfect. I don't think any platform's perfect. I think everything has its kind of pros and cons, and if you think a certain platform has more cons than pros than the other, that's fine. But when I said that the console still has value, I was actually speaking from the perspective of the platform holder. Like, Sony absolutely sees an immense value in the console because of how much money that console makes them and the type of customers that they have playing on that console. Same thing with Microsoft, dude. Like, I still see people right now that are like, I still play on Xbox. Like, that's my go-to console. And at first, I was always like, that's weird, you know? But I realized the only reason that seemed weird to me is because I'm projecting my own internal feelings onto somebody else, where it's like, yeah, to me, it would feel weird to go and play on an Xbox now. Like, to go buy an Xbox and make that the console I play on. For me, that would feel strange. But that's just me. It's not like, once I remove myself from the equation and my own bias and opinion and like what I care about and what makes sense to me, it's actually really not difficult at all, to hear somebody out when they're like, I actually prefer to play on Xbox just because my friends are there, or I like the controller better, or, I mean, they like, maybe somebody even just likes the UI better. I don't know. The point is, whatever their reason is, that's on them, dude. That's for them. That's not for me. So I just wanted to make sure I separated those two things there, because when I was saying that there's still value in the console, I'm not trying to tell, like, if you're somebody who doesn't see value in the console, like from a consumer standpoint, I'm not trying to make that argument. That would be an interesting conversation to have, but I'm not, to be honest, I don't really engage in those conversations much anymore, because I realize that there's no winning that. You know what I mean? There's no, like, and you also don't get anything for winning that argument. You don't get anything, It's just like, that argument just always gets reduced to, let me tell you why the way you're enjoying video games is inferior to the way I'm enjoying video games. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what is the purpose of this exercise? There is no purpose. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes people like to argue. I guess that is the purpose. All right, I got a couple of super chats. I'm sorry to keep you guys waiting. SGT says, when did PlayStation release for PC first time, and what was their reasoning at that time regarding consoles? You're right, but some will migrate to PC. Let me see. The first game was Horizon Zero Dawn. The PlayStation blog post, this was... Wait, hold on. That's the wrong one. Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition releases on PC today. This was August 7th, 2020. Over 3 years after its debut, and with its highly anticipated sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, confirmed to be coming to PS5, it's a great time to introduce a new audience to this fan-favorite epic. For anyone who's never owned a PS4, or those who skipped a generation or more, it's a great example of the kinds of games we consistently aim to deliver. Of course, the studios take... Okay, so that's basically what they said. So here's what I think shifted. I'll tell you what I think shifted, based off of reading that. It sounds to me like the reasoning shifted from when they first started porting games to PC in 2019 and 2020. The reasoning was, we want to convince people who are not here right now, who are over there, that, like, you're going to want to come over here for the sequels. Right? Hey, we announced Horizon Forbidden West. We're going to drop Zero Dawn on PC. The idea is we're going to get more of you guys coming over to PlayStation now. And I don't know if it's working. I don't know. I'm going to assume it's not working, because that doesn't seem to be what they're trying to do anymore. For example, that was 4 years ago in 2020. Now we see with Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is releasing 15 months after 15 months onto PC. I don't think there's nothing there that tells me this isn't an effort to get PC players to come to PlayStation. Because what are they selling them on? Like, they didn't announce Spider-Man 3. They didn't announce a Venom game. We know Wolverine, but we haven't seen it since 2021. So there's like nothing there to incentivize PC players who pick up Spider-Man 2 on PC to be like, I want the next thing now, so I'm going to go to Sony for it. To me, it feels more like we just want to try to maximize PC sales, which I think at this point in time is probably a smarter way to go about it. I do think that's probably the smarter way. Sounds like BS from Sony. No, I don't think it was BS, dude. I think they actually were experimenting. Maybe it was BS, but I think Sony, when they first started launching games onto PC, I think they were genuinely trying to see, like, will this work? Like, will this convince people to come over when they see what we have to offer? And only they have that data, you know? We never heard them talk about it. Only they know how many people apparently, how many new customers they got that presumably could have been PC players. We don't know that. But based off of how it's changed, the strategy has changed somewhat and it's escalated. I would assume that that's not the same strategy anymore. The PS6 will reveal all. I'll tell you that. These like half-hearted interviews that we're getting from Herman Holst and Hideaki Nishino, we can only, they're still they are still fact-based, and we are still just going based off of what they're saying. But you could still tell that they're not revealing everything. There's a lot they're still not saying. The PlayStation 6, when that rolls around, it will reveal all, man. We have Josh Z with another chat. Thank you, buddy. A $10 super chat. He says, I think people often mistake hardware success with brand power. I think that PlayStation has hurt their brand power in recent years, and they are not as smart as Nintendo in evolving the reach of their brand. That's a tough one, man, because I do think they have hurt their brand to a degree. This is something that I see, I've witnessed. It's like a firsthand experience type thing where on one hand, I don't feel like it's fair necessarily for me to say that they hurt their brand because they're doing better than ever, factually speaking. You know what I mean? When it comes to the data, when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to the results, which at the end of the day, I guess is all that matters, they seemingly are doing better than ever. There's very few weak points, if any. And there's not many areas within PlayStation that I think have gone down, right? Everything seems to be doing relatively well. So when I talk about them hurting their brand image or their brand power, it's based on what I noticed over the last 4 years or so. You think it's because they're charging more now? I mean, it could be that, yeah. There's no denying that could be what it is. It's just like it's being offset by the illusion of they're offering more products than ever before and more premium products, and all that's just kind of mitigating what, because like if they didn't do this, basically I guess the question would be this, right? If Sony basically handled the PS5 generation the exact same way they did with the PS4 in terms of, just the PS4 console, a couple of accessories, some controllers, and not really going in as hard with the premium side, PS Plus Extra and Premium maybe didn't exist. I mean, and they had less exclusives overall. You really got to wonder, like, would things be down? Like, would they actually be? Would it turn out that the PS4 generation would have done better overall comparatively? It's neither here nor there. I'm going down the road of what if again, but I do think Sony has damaged their brand power a little bit. I don't agree with some of the takes I see out there from people. I think some people get a little bit crazy with it, where they make it sound like PlayStation literally lit the brand on fire and reduced it to ashes. And it's like, no, that's not, in my opinion, that's not true at all. But I also do not agree with people, because I do see other people that are like, dude, PlayStation is the best it's ever been. Like, there's nothing wrong with them at all. And I'm like, like they haven't made any mistakes or anything. I'm like, I don't agree with that either. Like, I think it's kind of somewhere in the middle, where I think PlayStation is doing a lot of good stuff. I think they've done unnecessary damage to themselves, like to the brand and to some of the products, where it's like just so easily avoidable, Like, I wouldn't use the analogy of they're shooting themselves in the foot. That's too extreme. I don't think Sony's shooting themselves in the foot or PlayStation shooting themselves in the foot, but I think they keep smashing their thumb with the hammer. you know? Like they keep stepping on the rake. Maybe that's an even better one. Sony keeps stepping on the rake, you know? And they really, it's just like it's right there, man. Just walk around it. Just sidestep, pivot, you know? You don't have to step on the rake this time. But it's not, you know, there's a difference, like I said, between stepping on the rake and shooting yourself in the foot. And as far as I could tell, Sony did not, the PlayStation brand did not shoot itself in the foot. But when you talk about comparing it to Nintendo, I do think that Sony, they have to be, this is not something that I don't feel, again, I don't feel at liberty to speak about how Nintendo handles their strategy because I'm not as familiar with it. But I'm just speaking purely as a PlayStation fan and consumer or customer. And I do believe that Sony needs to start speaking more directly to their loyal consumers, like their loyal fans, the people that frankly have made the brand what it is today, you know? And they do that sometimes. Like we saw them doing it with the 30th anniversary collection. And, you know, there are these moments where they're doing that. And, you know, they're nailing the most important thing. And we're going to talk about this when we do our like PlayStation 2024 review. But like, yeah, it's really difficult for me to like shake my fist at Sony when I just got done. Well, I'm not done, but I'm sitting here playing Silent Hill 2 Remake. And it's like, Sony, you didn't make this game, but you know, it's a game that if I was on Xbox right now, I wouldn't be able to play it. You know what I mean? It's like, I know, and that's what's weird about it, right? And it's like, well, that's Konami. So it's like, all right. Well, you know what, Sony, I'm not really going to give you all the credit. You spent some money. Okay. All right. But then it's like, you did drop Astrobot. Helldivers 2 was one of my favorite experiences ever, and definitely a top experience of the year. You know, you did make sure to get Stellar Blade. It's like, these are things that they are pluses, and they are good, and they are meaningful. But I do not believe that at the same time, like in the same breath, it means, and so therefore they're not doing anything wrong, or there's nothing they can improve upon. I don't agree with that. I believe that there are things that Sony needs to improve upon. And it's like I said, I think the biggest thing is they need to create a better line of communication with the fan base. And I feel like what has made this more difficult, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like what has made this more difficult than ever before for Sony is that, and I see this, dude, I'm not Sony PR. I'm not in Sony's marketing team. You know, I don't work for Sony. I'm just a fan of PlayStation. I can tell you right now, dude, if it was my job starting tomorrow to like, okay, listen, we need to grow the brand and we need to grow the user base. And the only way we're going to be able to do that at the rate in which we need to do that is by beginning to expand our horizons, putting games on PC, doing some live service stuff. When I see the way that the hardcore PlayStation fans act towards stuff, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to talk to them either. I literally wouldn't know what to tell them, and I would probably just get annoyed because it's like, guys, listen, we kind of have to do this. Like, we're trying to grow. Like, I think the realization at this point in time is that PlayStation has communicated a message that is similar to the message that Microsoft has communicated to their fan base. However, Sony is seemingly trying to handle it with more care. When we talk about this whole situation with like, this is an Xbox marketing campaign and Phil Spencer doing a podcast where he's announcing games going to another platform. And I mean, can we talk about for just another moment here, the Indiana Jones one more thing moment for PS5? Like, stuff like that is not shit you will see Sony doing. You will not see Sony do that. I think Sony is looking at that and thinking, some of that, not all of that stuff, but some of that stuff I think we might have to start doing, whether we like it or not. Like, if we want to grow and we want to keep up with, like, getting more users in, we might have to start doing at least a little bit of that shit. But you're not going to see Sony come out and announce it that way. The closest, although with PC stuff, they are doing it. I think, again, everything they're doing with PC, I think, is a test bed. Where it's like, you see Sony. Here's a state of play, and here's Spider-Man 2 coming to PC. Here's our first trailer at the Game Awards. Last of Us Part 2 coming to PC. Like, you're seeing them do that, but I guess what I'm trying to say here is Sony is they're trying their best to save face while slowly inching towards a wider strategy that Microsoft basically just said, we're not trying to save face. Like, Satya Nadella is a savage, bro. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I feel like Satya Nadella would just straight up look at, like, certain Xbox fans online and be like, we don't like you and we don't care about you. So please buy our product. Like, we're just keep buying our product. We're going to go over here now. Okay. So I feel like Satya Nadella is just kind of savage that way, where and I think he is that way because I think he has firsthand experience in reaching that wider market. You know what I'm saying? I think Satya Nadella doesn't give a shit about the fans of Xbox because he knows, like, he's literally done this with other sections of Microsoft, where once you reach those, like, billions of consumers, there are no fans anymore. You're too big you're too big now to have to give a shit about having a fan base of anything. You're just a product. You're a necessary product, practically, That's the goal. And Sony definitely wants to be there, but Sony, I think, this is where Sony, I don't think they're going to be able to get away from their roots, man. I don't think they're going to be able to do it because Sony is not Microsoft. And the truth is, like, PlayStation has these deep, deep roots with its customer base that I don't think they're going anywhere. And I think as long as that core customer base stays here, there's going to be this just lofty expectation placed on them. Doesn't mean they wouldn't walk away potentially at some point, but I don't know, man. I feel like when you read these interviews, or when I read these interviews from, like, Herman Holston, Hideaki Nishino, like, they're literally the most robotic interviews I've ever seen. Like it may as well be an AI running PlayStation right now, because they're that's how robotic and just unengaged they are with fans, and I will say it's hard for me to criticize that, because I am somebody who is always involved with the fan base, and not just the PlayStation. I'm not just talking about PlayStation fans, but I'm always, like, seeing what type of conversations are going on out there, and it's like, holy shit, dude. Yeah, no more parasocial relationships for PlayStation executives, No more of that. Saying the PS3 era was probably one of the peak gaming eras. Well, listen, one of two things is going to happen, man. Sony is either going to break through to the other side, like they're pursuing. Sony is trying to, as a company with the PlayStation brand, they're trying to get somewhere, and they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. The rock being, their roots as a console hardware manufacturer and a first-party publisher. The hard place being the wider market that are potentially billions of customers that they could eventually call PlayStation users. And Microsoft, again, is in the same exact boat, but the biggest difference here is Microsoft, I'm telling you, man, they're not playing around anymore. Microsoft is willing to throw anything in the fire that needs to go in the fire if it means it'll get them to that place. They will throw anything in that fire, dude. And I feel like it has hurt their brand. Like the Xbox brand, when it comes to the brand, I mean, I guess we need to kind of define what we mean by brand power, Yeah, they'll throw you in the fire, bro. They don't give a shit. What exactly do we mean by brand power? Michael Lynch, you're saying, luckily Mark Cerny is where all the heart and humanity is at PlayStation. That's what matters. Yeah, dude, I'm like, they got to get Mark out here more often, man. You can't hate that guy. You can't even dislike him. Mark Cerny should be the face of PlayStation, but no, Mark Cerny, I think, does a really good job, believe it or not. It's really funny. And man, it's actually kind of just such excellent execution, man, where Mark Cerny has effectively made it clear that, like, no, I'm not a part of Sony. He gets paid by Sony, but I don't think he's actually a Sony employee, dude. Like, he's kind of in his own, he's like the Nintendo of Sony. He just does his own thing. He operates on his own. And I think, he kind of earned that over the years because it's like he could go somewhere else. That's the dude you want to make sure you keep on your team, man. You got to keep that guy happy. And so I don't think Mark Cerny is interested in any of the marketing stuff, Mark Cerny to me is the guy that does want to do a 40-minute presentation going over every little detail very calmly and collected. And that's why it was so weird when we saw the very first video of the PS5 Pro, where it's like, it was cool seeing Mark Cerny, but you could tell, like, it's like, yeah, this is like we have to make a marketing video here, man, and it felt like he barely touched on what was actually going on here. But yeah, man, I do agree. I think Mark Cerny's kind of like like you're saying, he's like the heart, bro. He's got that humanity. He's not corpo. At least he doesn't seem like it. Mark Cerny platinumed Returnal, man. Pretty sure he did. That's how you know. That's how you know. That's how you know he's the heart and humanity of PlayStation. Mark Cerny got the first hug when Astro Bot won Game of the Year. Oh yeah, it's true. He was there too. But I've been seeing this happening with a lot of different brands now and a lot of things these days where I feel like as the world itself becomes more and more socially interconnected, I think it is changing these brands. I think it's changing the approach. I think that all the things, stemming back to the creation of Xbox Live and it wasn't the PlayStation Network, but Sony being like, we're going to have an Ethernet port too and let people play multiplayer games and wear a headset and talk. It goes back to stuff like that. And then, people look at like the Horse Armor DLC as like the beginning, right? Like that was the foreshadowing of like what's to come. And today I see like so many fan bases of so many different products and so many different things divided. And I think that division comes just simply in the form of like corporations and the corporate mentality, I think the growth mentality has truly, I think, reached a new level across the board here, where those who are seemingly safe from it are only safe from it for now. You know, it seems like it's getting its tendrils into everything, where it's just everything's got to be bigger, more, 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 more. It's never enough. And you know, that can lead into a wider conversation of global economics and whatnot and geopolitics, but I'm not trying to get into that here. I'm just trying to keep it gaming. But what I will say is, did you guys see that recent controversy with Netflix? I didn't look too deeply into it, but from what I gathered, apparently, supposedly, there was like internal memos or some shit or something that was going around to like directors that are working for Netflix, where they're like, you need to make sure your characters in your movies are very clearly and explicitly stating their intentions, because apparently viewers are not able to like, they don't want to wait around to figure it out, or they're just too dumb to figure it out. Like, they need to be told explicitly. It's like, and it was so hard for me to believe this, because I'm like, there's no way. It's like, so you basically want the villain of the movie. Am I wrong on this? I didn't look too deeply into it. That's not what it was about. Okay, so misinformation from Twitter once again, from the trending tab. Uh-oh. I will say, it sounded so ridiculous. I'm like, it's just hard to believe, right? Like, you want the villain to turn to the camera and talk to the viewer and tell them, like, here's my intention, here's my end goal, this is what I'm trying to do. It's like, who would want to watch that? What was it about, if it wasn't that? A Netflix console. They were saying that they need to say out loud what actions they are doing, because many people watch Netflix away from the screen as background noise. Oh, okay. That actually does make more sense. Still kind of strange. Still kind of strange, though. All right, that's not as bad. That's not as egregious. But I don't know. That just popped into my mind, dude, because it's like I'm just seeing this situation arise. Not even a situation, but this change, I guess you could say. This change across the board, where it seems like a lot of different fandoms are just basically being put in this position where it's like, listen, man, these companies are going in this direction, and you're either on board or you're not, but they're going in that direction either way. But there doesn't seem to be anything else. Kind of, sometimes you get like a different company that comes in and takes the place of it, right? But that seems to be happening less and less. Console is dying, but Steam are making a console. Apparently. You either get with it or you get left behind. I mean, yeah, like, all right, I'm going to open the fridge now and look for a meal, which is going to be super obnoxious if it's for literally every action. I'm now going to walk down this corridor quietly. I hope I'm not discovered. I don't know. It sounds so stupid. Anyone remember the KFC console? I remember the KFC console. But let me wrap up this the point that I'm trying to make here, so we can talk a little bit more about Square Enix and Final Fantasy in that situation. At the end of the day, I think that Sony is trying to have their cake and eat it too. I do. I think that what they are trying to do is maintain the high level of success that they have achieved in the console space, while simultaneously moving into other spaces to attract new customers and new revenue streams. A lot of people believe that this is going to be a failed endeavor, though, because they believe that they're not going to be able to do both. One's going to have to come at the cost of the other eventually. And I do agree with this. I think eventually down the line, if we're trying to predict the future, if we're trying to map out what's likely to happen, in the next decade or even 2 decades, I do think that one is going to eventually come at the cost of the other. But if I had to make a bet, if I was a betting man and I had to seriously bet, like, my life savings or whatever on it, or just something huge, just some huge colossal amount of money that I definitely don't want to lose. If I had to make a bet, I'm going to say that the future of gaming is ubiquitous. It is brands, platforms being IP, being everywhere. I think that there will still be exclusives, but I think the way in which those exclusives are leveraged is going to be very different. I think it's just going to change. But I think when it comes to the gaming market, the console will still have a place. I think there will still be video game consoles 20 years from now. I think there will still be millions of people playing on video game consoles years from now. But I think that there's also going to be millions of people playing on the cloud. I think there's going to be millions of people playing, playing their game. I mean, you could argue they're already doing it, but playing all of their PlayStation games, all of their Xbox games, all of the third-party games on handheld devices, on PCs, on PlayStation-branded handheld devices. I think all of these things are going to happen, and I just think that both Sony and Microsoft are preparing for that, man. I think that they understand that this is going to happen. Like whether people want it or not right now, it's where these things are headed. Where maybe today, not many people are gaming on the cloud. Today, not many people are, necessarily. Well, actually, I was going to say today, a lot of people today are completely okay with a digital only feature, but a lot can change. I want you to think about this. This is where I'll wrap this conversation up. I want you to think about the last 5 years of PlayStation, specifically PlayStation. Think about the last 5 years. Now, are you thinking about it? Because I'm thinking about it. I remember in like 2019, building up to the launch of the PS5, building up to The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima. I think Dreams came out in 2019 as well. So Dreams came out that year. 2020, launch of the PS5. 2021, Returnal. 2022, God of War, Ragnarok, Horizon, GT7. 2023, Spider-Man 2. 2024. And I'm just like naming some basic stuff here, but I want you to think, those are all like the highlights of if you were playing on PlayStation, these are the things you could look forward to. But I want you to think about everything else surrounding it. Think about it. Think about everything else that happened around PlayStation in the last 5 years. Now I want you to do the same thing. Think about Xbox. Xbox, it's even more extreme. Think about where Xbox was in 2020 and 2021 to where they are now in 2024. This is half a decade, dude. I'm not saying it's a short period of time. I don't think 4 or 5 years, I don't think that's a short period of time. But I think if I were to ask you, does it feel like it's been 4 years since these consoles came out? I think a lot of people would be like, no, it doesn't feel that way. That's just 4 to 5 years, man. Imagine what's going to change in the next 10 years. Think about where gaming was 10 years ago from now. I think that people just need to kind of realize, and I don't want to say they have to accept it because, well, you don't have to accept anything, but I just think it's better to try to realize that you don't have to be on board with the changes that are occurring. But if you're going to partake in the conversations, it's best to maybe try to understand why they're happening and why you can't stop it from happening. It reminds me of Call of Duty a little bit. I'm not the biggest Call of Duty player. I mean, I played a lot this year. Black Ops 6 is really fun. You know what's weird? Black Ops 6 is a great example of me being on the outside looking in. Like, dude, I play that shit pretty casually. I did get all the trophies for it, but I play it pretty casually in that, like, I just play some multiplayer, playing some Infected, maybe play a little bit of TDM, play some zombies with my friends, Mrs. MBG a little bit. And that's it. That's what I'm doing, you know? Meanwhile, when I go on the internet, dude, I'm seeing these videos coming up. It's like, Call of Duty's fucking dying and it's over, and like Activision and Microsoft are ruining everything and all this shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you guys talking? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I see some of the ridiculous stuff that they put in the game where it's like some of the skins look ridiculous, and I'm not saying that, like, that stuff to me is a bit cringe, and I'm like, whatever. But I'm just enjoying the game for what it is, man. And I'm just seeing people, they're losing their fucking minds. And I'm like, maybe being a fan of things sucks. Like, I'm really just starting to think that being a fan of anything might just suck. Come on, dude. Come on. Guys, we are 9 members away. We're 9 members away from being able to feed the beast. We are 2 super chats away from being able to feed the beast. Boss he's patiently waiting for his new treats. So I'm just putting that out there, okay? Now, I mean, obviously, I'm kidding about it sucks being a fan of anything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe to some people that is true, but I'm putting this out here just because it is interesting to me that Call of Duty is an example of me not really paying that much attention and just being a somewhat casual player of the game, where it's like, dude, I don't care what people are saying about the game. I care about what am I experiencing when I turn my PlayStation on, I boot the game up, and I go to play a couple multiplayer rounds or some rounds of zombies. That's what I care about. And when I walk away being like, that was pretty fun. You know? So like all the things that people are losing their minds about, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You know? Like, here's the biggest example. People have gone on and on and on about skill-based matchmaking. And it's clearly a real thing. I think like almost every competitive game that these days, I think, has skill-based matchmaking. But the way I've seen the Call of Duty community talk about it over the years, it's like, man, I should burn this game. Yeah, I should burn it. Because this is bad. This is bad news, man. Meanwhile, it's like, dude, I don't know. I think at some point, I'm just going to say it, man. I'm just going to put it out there. Skill-based matchmaking is real. I'm not saying it isn't real. I definitely experience it. But I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm just going to say it, okay? Call of Duty is the greatest game ever made. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm going to say is I think more people need to be honest with themselves. I'm serious, man. I think more people need to just kind of accept the reality that you do not feel the same way about video games anymore. You are not as into gaming as you once were. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you have to quit gaming or you have to stop gaming, but I think that it just gets a little bit tiring. It's like everything's got to be the way it was 10 years ago. It has to. It has to, because it was better. And it's like, dude, you're 10 years older. I don't think things actually get, I mean, maybe a few select things actually get better as you get older, but most things probably don't get better. You know? Like, things change, man. I think more people just need to kind of wake up and realize that generations of people involved in this stuff, it's like, yes, we are now the people getting older. We are now the people getting older, and we are, a lot of us, some older than me, some maybe even a little bit younger than me, but you're getting to that point where it's like, I'm shaking you are shaking your fist at the cloud, man. You know? Like, it is what it is. Face the music, you're old. No, I'm not necessarily talking about anybody in particular in the chat. I don't know how most of you guys are, but I'm just saying I see people, they really, and I understand too, because I do feel that way about some things. Like I do feel, the nostalgia I feel is not just pure nostalgia. There were some things that were better, for sure. At least I think. But it's like when I see something today that it's not even that I don't fully understand it. It's just I don't think that's very good, or I'm not into it at all, right? I've just gotten to a point where it's like, but yet millions of people are. Yet there's such a massive market out there. And I could like make fun of it, or I could shit on it, and I could be like, this is stupid. But at the same time, it's like, who am I to say, man? Like there were 100% people my age now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, probably looking at some of the stuff I was doing or into, being like, that shit's stupid, dude. What even is this? What's happening? It's like an endless cycle. It's an endless cycle, man. And I just think that I'm seeing a lot of that. Like more than ever, I'm seeing a lot of it. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that and I want to make something clear. I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize things. I'm not saying we shouldn't voice our concerns or our frustrations or, things that we deem like not ideal and need to change. We absolutely still need to do that. But I just think these days people are getting ahead of themselves, and they're having trouble separating. Like, I just think you're not a happy person anymore, or like you're just not as into this anymore. Like it's not making you feel the same way it did before. I mean, it's like, I just think it's worth taking a step back and asking yourself sometimes, is it a me problem? You know what I mean? That's all. Now, I'm not saying it always is. There are definitely some things where it's like, no, it's not just a you problem. It's a wider problem that hopefully we will find a solution to. But I do think that there are many other things where it's like, maybe it is a you problem, because here's millions and millions of people perfectly fine, content, enjoying themselves. And here's like a smaller group over here, like of people just miserable, unhappy, losing their minds. I feel like I'm seeing that so much these days. And I think that's just one of the things that I've kind of realized about myself recently, and why I'm like, I just want to look, I like to talk deeply about games and the platforms and stuff, but I just want to enjoy games too, Like it's so much easier to enjoy games when you're not worried about like constantly like, what's the problem today? What should I be annoyed about today? It's like, maybe it's not like that every day, man. Maybe it's actually just fine to have fun and enjoy something for what it is. It's okay. But, I digress. Maybe some people have just been playing the wrong games for them. I mean, yeah, I believe that. I definitely believe that. I mean, look, man, I am playing Silent Hill 2 Remake right now, and there was a bit of drama with this game. Not a lot, but there was some. And I did come across like different corners of the internet where people were really aggressively complaining about some of these things in Silent Hill 2 Remake, whether it be they were complaining about how some of the characters look, or some of the gameplay changes, or just some of the overall story changes they made. And I'm just like, I'm so glad I just disconnected from that, dude. I'm like, you know what? I don't really give a shit at all. I think everything I've seen in this game looks fucking amazing. I'm buying it day one and I'm playing it. And it's one of the best games. It's one of the best remakes. I'm not even just a remake. It's just one of the best games I ever played, dude. It's not perfect. I do have a couple of issues with it, but generally speaking, it's one of the best games I ever played. And I can only imagine how I would feel if I just let people be like, no, dude, don't you see this list of problems I got here for you? It's like, you know what? Fucking save it. I'm gonna try it myself. And it turns out I enjoyed it so much, I don't even care what that person's list of problems is. I have my own list of problems, and they're pretty small. Outside of that, it's pure enjoyment, man. Bro, you guys got to help Boss out here, man. Look at him. He's literally sleeping on his treats, bro. Look at this guy. Look at him. He's saying he wants that shit off his bed. He's perturbed. He wants them. We're so close. We're 2 super chats away, guys. I'm sorry. My mic is peaking. I gotta. I'm sorry about that. I gotta realize that I'm like right. Yeah, I know. I'm right. I'm practically eating my microphone, so I'm sorry about that. MRPD saying you watched Nosferatu last night. Amazing movie. All right, guys, let's talk about the situation with Square Enix and Final Fantasy VII. Before I do that, though, we have Elite Dude dropping a $10 super chat saying, all right, bet. That's his 5th time super chatting as well. Thank you for that, Elite Dude. And just like that, 1 super chat away, and Boss can get his treats, guys. So I'm going to encourage that. Thank you, Elite Dude. I appreciate that support. Boss eats the mic arm. MBG eats the microphone. It's that bad out here. So when it comes to the situation with Square Enix and Final Fantasy, let me tell you where this comes from. So there was an interview conducted with Yoshinori Kitase with IGN Brazil, and I'm not going to read the whole interview, and it's rough translation, but there were 2 key points that I think were conveyed here. So, well, I'm going to refer to the PlayStation 5 subreddit. It says Yoshinori Kitase said that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales did not disappoint, but they can't be exclusive to a single console anymore. So this is quite interesting. Somebody in this thread says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's sales figures have never been revealed, but when we look at previous releases in the franchise, such as Final Fantasy 15, which sold 5 million copies in the first 24 hours after its release, Final Fantasy VII Remake, which sold 3.5 million units in just 3 days, and Final Fantasy 16, which sold 3 million units during its opening week, we see that the most recent titles, all of which were timed exclusives for PlayStation consoles during their launch period, have not reached the sales levels as high as Final Fantasy 15, which was released simultaneously on PS4 and Xbox One on November 29th, 2016. So that was actually from the IGN interview. I believe that was translated, but that context is important because they are referring to previous sales of Final Fantasy 15. Oh my God, he opened it. Hellbound 1981 with a super chat. Hellbound never super chats. He says, "For boss." Oh my God, he did it. Bro, that's too much. Bro. Oh my God. Perfect timing, Hellbound. That was seriously the perfect timing. Like, now I'm worried. He figured out how to open it. He loves these treats, dude. These are by far his favorite treats. Well, he's got plenty now. So thank you guys for that. We hit the goal. 10 super chats. The beast is being fed. He's on a mission. Yeah, he's something, man. But he's happy now. So, boss, thanks you guys for that. Michael Lynch, you're saying boss grew opposable thumbs. Yeah, did you guys? I didn't see it. How did he open that? That was actually it was like attached, the little flap. So I don't know how he opened it. I guess maybe he used his mouth. I'm watching it now, actually. I'm watching the replay. He's using his paw. He's trying to figure it. That's so funny, dude. He almost knocked the whole thing over. Were you guys trying to warn me of this? I'm watching this back now. That would have been so bad if he knocked that entire thing off the cat tower. That's so funny, dude. I'm sitting here reading a quote. He opens it and just shoves his face in it. That's awesome. Boss never ceases to surprise me, man. All right. Getting back on topic here. So there's a couple things I want to say about the whole Final Fantasy exclusivity with PlayStation and what Yoshinori Kitase is saying here. There's a couple things we have to point out. The first is Square Enix is seemingly never happy with their sales. I feel like this is just something we have to keep in mind when we're talking about this. They are not a normal company. Every single game apparently misses the mark for them. And you would think at some point they would readjust their expectations, lower them a little bit, so that way they can actually reach some of their goals, but they're not doing that. Now, in this case, they're pointing to a game like Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 launched in 2016 for PS4 and Xbox One, and it sold 5 million units in the first 24 hours. Now, if we compare that to Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 16 launched on just one console, that being the PS5, rather than two. And I don't recall if Final Fantasy 15 was a day one PC release. Maybe you guys can let me know about that. Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million units during its opening week. So not only was it down from the 5 million, but it was also, it took them longer to hit that 3 million. It took them like a whole week. So we have to really, I would say, get down to the meat and potatoes of this conversation. It was a year after. Okay, so it wasn't day one on PC. All right. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this conversation. Let's ask the real question here. Is PlayStation 5 exclusivity the reason why Final Fantasy 16 and possibly Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth are not meeting their sales expectations? They're not meeting their sales goals. Is the PS5 exclusivity the reason? Well, as you guys answer that, I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. I do not think it is the reason. Do I think it helps? No, I don't. I don't think that the game being exclusive to one console is helping sales either, but I don't think it's the reason why it's not going to hit its sales, its sales expectation. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but it seems to me that Square Enix at this point in time may be overestimating the impact sales-wise that modern Final Fantasy games are going to have. We look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, that did really well. Some people are thinking that that was boosted by the pandemic. Now, I'm not going to say it is or it was or wasn't, but when you consider just how big the fall off was apparently sales-wise for Rebirth, you have to start to ask the question, right? And Michael Lynch with another super chat says, well, it is a Japanese company. At least they are not committing seppuku. How do you say that? Hold on. I have to. Hold on. Let me see. I'm gonna play it. Wait. Is it gonna? Seppuku. There we go. Okay. I knew I was saying it wrong. I'm like, seppuku? That doesn't sound right. Seppuku. You're saying at least they are not committing seppuku from failure. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. We don't want them doing that. That's a bit extreme. I think that what they need to do, honestly, is just, I think they need to be a little bit more honest with themselves. They need to be a little bit more honest in when they're developing these games. I imagine the sales expectations they create for themselves are based on the budget going into the game itself. That's my assumption. Right? I mean, it just makes sense if we're spending $150 to $180 million on this game. Here's how many sales we're going to need minimum to break even. Here's how many we want to shoot for to get a handsome profit, right? So it is understandable why they would be frustrated, because they probably can't reduce those expectations. Reducing those sales expectations means being okay with not making a profit and being okay with being over budget, basically. So I do understand why they're not going to really adjust their sales expectations, but I do think that they are misguided in believing or trying to convince themselves that if they go multi-platform, they're going to suddenly turn it around. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier, and I'll mention it again, maybe with the Switch 2. If Final Fantasy 17 comes out on the PS5, the Switch 2, the Xbox Series consoles, and PC, all those platforms, day one, I think they have a real chance. I think they have a real chance of hitting whatever that sales milestone might be. But I think this idea with a game like Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, that if we had just released it on PC day and date, we would have hit our goal. I mean, I don't think so, dude. I mean, we don't know what the sales numbers for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth are going to be on PC, and maybe I'll be totally wrong. Maybe it'll blow up on PC and it's like, holy shit, we did it. We just needed to bring the game to PC. But when we look at Final Fantasy 16, it seemingly didn't light the world on fire. You know, it didn't do huge numbers on PC. It did, I would say, modestly well, but I still get the feeling that it's not enough. I feel like if it was enough, they would tell people it was enough, you know? I think ultimately what may have to happen here, if I'm wrong about my assumption, is I think in the end, Square Enix and their development teams might just have to settle on, listen, you can't justify dumping this much money into the next mainline Final Fantasy game or the next remake, whatever it is, you just can't, you cannot justify this level of production value anymore. You know, I think that might be the most realistic outcome here, where it's just people still love Final Fantasy. It absolutely still has a huge place in the industry and shouldn't go anywhere, but it's just not going to reach that peak that it once did, regardless of whether it's exclusive or not. And so because of that, they might have to readjust their level of investment financially when it comes to these games. That's my guess anyway, man, because the only other option I think is the one they're going to pursue. And I can't blame them. They probably feel obligated to do this, and it's worth trying, because who knows, maybe this is the situation, but they probably are like, look, man, even if it's not true that these sales numbers are not being held back or are being held back by PS5 exclusivity, even if that is not true, we need to just kind of convince ourselves and everybody else that it is. You know, this is, hey, don't fight. Don't fight. Boss, you can't be mad. She was just checking on you. You're saying they just got to put their games on more platforms. That's it. I don't think it's that simple, Money. I'll be honest with you, man. I do not think it's that simple. I think that by them putting it on more platforms, it will help. I think it will help. I want to make that clear. I don't think it's going to hurt them. And I think they're doing the right thing, by the way. I've stated this multiple times, and I will state it here again. Any video game company or publisher that is struggling to hit their sales, exclusivity is the last thing they should be worrying about. Unless the money they're getting for that exclusivity is so good that it doesn't matter if they hit their sales projections. If it's not that, which it probably isn't that, exclusivity is the last thing you should be worried about. You should be worried about exactly that, getting your games on as many platforms as possible and giving yourself the best possible chance at success. But we do have to understand when we talk about PlayStation exclusivity, there are like these conversations that try to paint Sony as the bad guy, and this isn't me trying to defend Sony as much as it's just trying to paint a clear picture that Sony did pay for this exclusivity for all of these deals. They did pay for all of this, and they probably paid a pretty good chunk of change. So I do not think that, looking at it as like this is Sony's fault, like Sony was the best. I mean, could it be seen as a waste of money? I mean, that's the thing. For as upset as Square Enix is, I think people also fail to realize that Sony's probably feeling kind of burned too. In the sense that the reason why Sony even sought after these games is because I think this is where people kind of leave this part out of the conversation. Sony believed in it too. Sony believed these games were going to sell more than they did. They believed that, Final Fantasy 16 was probably going to be a 10 million seller easily. And that's why they were likely willing to pay what I would assume to be a large amount of money to lock it down as an exclusive. But yeah, at this point in time, Square Enix has made it abundantly clear that they don't want anything to do with PlayStation exclusivity anymore. And I really can't blame them. It's like, yeah, man, I'm not saying that it's the root of your problem. I do not think exclusivity is the root of your problem, but I also do understand that at this point in time, it is not logical for you to be exclusive to one console. Xbox is dying. Nice name. You're saying, yo, Alice Cooper's one of my favorites. Just noticed the shirt. Yeah, man. Good shit. Good shit. I did see people bringing that up. A lot of people were bringing up the idea that, well, maybe the reason why Final Fantasy 16 didn't do as well as Square had hoped, it's not so much about PS5 exclusivity and more about the overall direction of the game and the fact that they didn't want it to be an RPG. I mean, it's an action game, dude. There were quite a few people who were not okay with that, and maybe they underestimated just how many people were not going to be okay with that. It's really hard to tell, man. I mean, I don't think we will have a clear answer to this problem that Square Enix has until Final Fantasy 17. I think Final Fantasy 17 is likely to go back to its roots and be more, I don't think they're going to go back to turn-based, but it will be an RPG, through and through. And I think it will be multi-platform. And I think when Final Fantasy 17 launches in that state, depending on how it does, we will know if there was any truth to any of this. We will know just how much the exclusivity maybe impacted it. We will know how much it not being a proper RPG or traditional RPG impacted it. But yeah, that's true too. We don't know how many new fans Final Fantasy 16 brought in. I mean, it brought me in, dude. Not just because it was exclusive, but because I was actually kind of interested in the idea of it being more action-oriented. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 16. It's a really good game. Side quests were not that great, but other than that, it was good. You need to be able to control multiple party members. Who cares about Final Fantasy 17? We are getting Expedition 33. That game does look interesting. Just aesthetically speaking. It's very interesting. All right. Sorry, guys. Hold on. My YouTube studio is being weird. Also, Ben Starr is in it. Yeah. Well, I think Final Fantasy 16 is going to go to Xbox, and that's going to be interesting, dude, because I mean, there's going to be a wave of like when Final Fantasy 16 goes to Xbox, there's going to be a wave of like certain people on the internet being like PlayStation lost another exclusive, but the reality is like I think the reality is going to be reflected in like, listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll take the L on this one. I think the reality is going to be reflected in that, and it did nothing. It's going to be on Game Pass if it does. That's my assumption, man. I think that might be. I think that's the angle Square Enix is trying to go in with, man. And they're smart for doing that. Kind of buttering up Microsoft a little bit, be like, so Microsoft, you still giving out that Game Pass money? I'm not so sure though, man, because Microsoft's in the strongest position they've ever been in with Game Pass. They might just be like, we're not going to pay you for that. Like you can put your game on here, but the wells run dry. Like we're good now. We don't really need to. You know what I'm saying? Like it might be too little, too late. Which if you're Square Enix and that's true, man, that sucks. That sucks, dude. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that's something Microsoft would still be willing to pay. Honestly, I think they would be willing to pay for that because it sends a message. You know what I mean? Like that's right. We got Final Fantasy now on Game Pass. So if it doesn't sell well, it still doesn't look bad because we got it on Game Pass. That's my view of it anyway. As of November 2024, Final Fantasy 16 has sold 289,000 on PC. Yet Square Enix thinks Xbox is going to help sales even though it flopped on PC. Wow, I didn't realize it was that low. Listen, I'm going to look it up myself just to make sure. Yep, that's what it says. 289,000 units since launch. That's not good, dude. That's actually really wow. I didn't know it was that low. Saying Final Fantasy 16 was like 20 for PlayStation physically. On PC, it's going for $50. Will, you're saying Square Enix has lost the culture of gaming, but also has not upgraded its games mechanics to match modern gamers? That's why they want to go day and date. I mean, you do have to wonder if they sold 289,000 units on PC, you do have to wonder how many units would they have sold or shipped if it launched the same day as PS5? Another million, maybe? Cypherpunk, you're saying no way people got salty over Final Fantasy not being exclusive. Are you talking about like PlayStation fans getting salty? Hold on one. Cypherpunk, is that who you're talking about? Like certain PlayStation fans getting salty over it not being exclusive? I mean, dude, look, I guess it depends on where you're looking, man, because something that I've noticed, and this goes for both PlayStation and Xbox, and probably any other platform out there, but mainly I'm focused on PlayStation and Xbox right now. If you're talking about like certain individuals you see posting shit on Twitter, or like on certain YouTube channels or whatever. I'm telling you, man, one of the worst things that has happened, I would say across the board with both of these brands, is and I mean truly the vocal minority being treated as if they are the majority. And that has become, I think, such a detrimental thing to this space that I'm trying my best to wade through, because I feel like, look, if you are a PlayStation fan who is enthusiastic about Final Fantasy exclusivity, there's no reason, I would say as of right now, maybe even ever, but certainly as of right now, there's no reason to be upset at the idea of them saying we're not really going to be exclusive anymore, because it's like they're not doing well. You know, like they're struggling. And I feel like it's one thing if a game maker or, you know, a development team or publisher, if they choose PlayStation exclusivity and they find immense success and they're like, wow, this is working out great for us. I could kind of see how it's like, yeah, you know, that's encouraging. I guess exclusivity isn't all bad, right? If it's working out for you. But when it goes the other way and it's like, you know, I think people need to kind of be mindful that at the end of the day, we don't want to see games that we deem to be good and worthwhile fail. And I don't think you could really fault a company for thinking, listen, we chose to go exclusive. It didn't work out in our favor. We don't know if that's why the game failed, but we got to at least try to see what happens when we don't go exclusive and see if that helps. You know, you got to let these companies do what they need to do to try to save their games and get them where they need to be, man. It's why, like, when we talk about PlayStation games sometimes, right? The idea that a game like Spider-Man 2 probably is going to PC so quickly because that was probably the most expensive game Sony ever made. And there's like more pressure on that game to make its money, not just make its money back. It did already make its money back, but to make as much money as it possibly can to justify that exorbitant, you know, cost of developing that title. And I'm not rooting against that. Like, I hope Spider-Man 2 does sell well on PC, you know? If it does, because it's funny because it's like I do see some people, they're like, I want Sony games to fail on PC, and it's like, I mean, do you know what you're actually advocating for? It's so weird because it's like, wait, you love PlayStation exclusives, you love these types of games, but you want them to fail on anything outside of the PlayStation console. But the reason why they're going outside of the PlayStation console is because more money needs to be made in order to justify the creation of those games. It's so weird because it's like, I think some people don't quite realize that at the end of the day, I think you're actually advocating for not getting these types of games anymore. That's what's so weird to me. Is it's like, I want this to fail because it's not exclusive, but it's like, what's more important to you, the exclusivity or the actual game itself, like what the game is? Because I think we've reached a point with some games where you can't really have both anymore. You got to pick one or the other. Seemingly. Maybe this is where Square Enix could be right, dude, to a small extent. I don't know if they're necessarily right with the games they're choosing to highlight right now, but this is why PC gamers don't mind waiting. They know it's coming eventually. And yeah, and that's why I think the timed exclusivity approach is not a bad idea. I'm going to be honest, man. I would love to see Sony release one of their games, one of their single player games, day one on PC. Not just because I would love to know what the result is. Because I think Sony's going to need to find that out. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, if some of Sony's games, I don't think people understand how expensive some of these games are that they're making right now. If you think Spider-Man 2 is expensive, wait until you hear about how expensive the next Naughty Dog game is. Wait until you hear about how expensive Santa Monica's new IP is. Like, the next God of War. Like, these games, the cost of these games is not going down. I think people are still forgetting that they're going higher and higher. And so I am really interested to know if the results that would be needed, you know, like here's how many units we sold day one on PC and PS5. I would just love to know what that looks like. I really would, because one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to be like, holy shit, it worked. Like we sold an extra 2 to 3 million day one by dropping this on PC, or it's going to be the opposite, where it's like we only moved a couple 100,000 units. You know, if it's that, if it's like you only moved a couple 100,000 units, like you might have a problem on your hands. You might have a problem on your hands. I know, yeah. Helldivers 2 did really well on PC, but we really have no idea when it comes to anything else. You know, like we don't know. Lego Horizon went day one, and yikes, my God. Will, you're saying vocal minority is on the net 24/7, yapping negativity. Indeed, Will. That's very true. Very true. I don't mind a little bit of negativity. I think we need a little bit of negativity sometimes, so as not to, you know, get that type of toxic positivity that can be detrimental. But people go crazy, man. Did we ever get sales numbers for Forbidden West? I don't. Let me check. No, not individually. I searched for PC, but May 9th, 2023, Forbidden West sold over 8.4 million units. I don't even remember if it was on PC at that time. So not sure. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. You know, that's why it's funny. Like people are wondering, like, man, why are they going to make another Horizon? I mean, the mainline Horizon games have sold very well, so it kind of is understandable why they're like, we're just going to keep making them, I guess. 30% PSN sales should offset that in the fact that the money maker making billions, and yet it's not enough. I mean, yeah, this is where you have to start to ask the question, like, the difference between need and greed, right? Like, sometimes we have these conversations about here's how expensive this game is to make, and here's how many units they have to sell. They got to make more money. I mean, they got to make more money. They just got to make more money. It's like, do they though? Like, are we sure they need to make more money, or did they actually make more than enough money? They just want more. Is it need or greed? You know? And I feel like that's hard to determine because we don't have all the data. There are a lot of numbers we're not privy to. So when you think about Spider-Man 2, you know, it leaked out how much Spider-Man 2 cost to develop. So we actually know roughly how much money Sony made off of Spider-Man 2, considering we got the sales update of 11 million. So I would say probably, well, I don't know. It's a tough one because I was going to say greed, but then it's like, listen, it turns out that we need even more money. We need this game to make even more money because the next game that's getting greenlit is going to be maybe double this amount. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, there's always going to be some level of greed, but it's like, if Spider-Man 2 cost over $300 million to develop, how much is Spider-Man 3 going to cost? $400 million? More than that? And that might be why they're like, we really need to, but I don't know. I feel like some gamers would be like, what you really need to do is tone it down. You don't, you know, whatever you're doing to make these games this expensive, you can relax a little bit. Tone it down. You don't have to make them that expensive. Hold on, my You think the layoffs and the studio closures are happening because the industry is already too bloated? Gameplay is king, graphics are not. Just make a fun game to play. That is all. Well, we will find out soon enough, man. If the AAA bubble is going to burst, at least for PlayStation, I think we'll find that out sooner rather than later. Hold on. You feel like the mainstream audience would be harder to sell to a AAA game scaling down on graphics? I mean, I agree. But I think Sony's got to be careful, man, because it's like I remember the last official PlayStation showcase, the one in 2023. They ended with Spider-Man 2, and one of the things I saw like kind of constantly popping up online were people criticizing. It was like Puddlegate again with Spider-Man 1, but this time with the sequel, where people were criticizing like the dumbest shit. And I feel like this is where, you know, you do have to wonder, like, does that type of stuff influence Sony's decision making? Like, do they see that and they're like, we need to have games that are like really next level and impenetrable. Like they're bulletproof. You know, you can't criticize them because it's how amazing they are. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that comes from the development side or the higher ups at Sony. And you do have to wonder, like, when people are nitpicking about the dumbest shit that doesn't matter, how much does that actually, like, how much do the studios pay attention to that and how much does it influence them? My hope would be not at all, because I literally just couldn't believe the stuff that people were trying to nitpick with Spider-Man 2. And when I see that, it does make me wonder, like, yeah, man, I mean, I think of like Rise of the Ronin, right? Rise of the Ronin is not a graphically good looking game. It looks like last gen, even maybe even beyond that. Like it looks early last gen, and it's not a good looking game, but it's a really fun game, you know? And would the game be better if it looked better? I mean, I feel like there's a certain level of trying to think of how to word it. Like a game looking better doesn't make it a better game, but I feel like it does influence how you feel about it. I do think that, like, there's no denying that the better the graphics, the better looking a game is, the better you tend to feel about it, as long as the gameplay is good too. If the gameplay is bad, graphics will never be able to make that up. But I feel like, you know, having those top tier graphics on top of really good gameplay, it's a winning recipe, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a proven winning recipe. And so it is kind of understandable, I think, why studios want to achieve that and strive for it if they're able to. But yeah, I mean, like, there has to be a certain, saying Horizon Forbidden West blew me away with graphics and animation and gameplay. Well, that's what I mean, dude. Like, I'm trying to imagine like Horizon Forbidden West with Rise of the Ronin level graphics. Like, I don't think people would feel the same way about it. I think it would still be good. I think people would still enjoy it, but I don't think people would feel the same way. That's why you love Returnal so much. It looks good, plays great. You're saying Ronin graphics are fine. I mean, they're not that. They're not like as bad, I think, as some people have made it sound. So, I mean, some people, I remember they were so critical towards it. I mean, you would have thought that this game looked like like an early PS3 game or a PS2 game or something. It's like, it's not. That's true too. Yeah, that's true. You're saying $70 is a lot to ask for. That's another reason with the graphical side of the conversation, right? Like, they probably feel like the better the game looks, the easier of a sell it probably is at $70. You know, I mean, when you think of like GTA 6, no matter how innovative the gameplay may be, no matter what they may be doing on the technical side, there's no denying people are expecting cutting fucking edge graphics for GTA 6. And people would not be willing to accept anything less. I just feel like it's the It's the way things are going, man. It's the way they've always gone. And I don't think they're going to change anytime soon. But, I saw this post the other day on Twitter, and it was an interesting one where somebody posted screenshots of The Last of Us Part 2 on the PS4 Pro next to, I think it was Spider-Man 2 on PS5 or PS5 Pro, and then it was Ghost of Tsushima on PS4 Pro next to Horizon Forbidden West on PS5 Pro, and they were basically saying like the difference truly has become negligible, where it's like it doesn't mean they're not going to get better, but the difference is negligible. And this is where it's like I don't know. I do agree with that based off of the images that were shown. We're like, yeah, it's tough, man. Like I don't know how much further they can push this. There's clearly more room left. Yeah, frame rate is a big difference, of course. There's more room. There is. But how much? Maybe not as much as we think, at least for now. That's where it's like, it's going to be, I think there's a lot of pressure on these studios where it's like, well, you can always prove us wrong, like you can always prove people wrong. And we love to see that. We love to see that. I mean, sometimes I think that to myself, man. I see how good some of these games look, and I really genuinely start to ask, like, how much better could this get? And that's where I think the more technical side is going to start to shine. The more technical side of it, it's going to be more about what can you do in this game world, not just how good does this game world look, not how realistic does it look anymore, or how beautiful does it look. It's going to be more about what can you do in it. And that I think could be a good thing, That could be a good thing, ultimately. I mean, who doesn't want... I think GTA 6 is another prime example of this, of like, GTA 5 was a good-looking game. Red Dead Redemption 2 was an incredible-looking game. So even though there is a very high expectation for, like, next-level graphics for GTA 6, there's also going to be, like, listen, we've been here before in terms of, like, having this open-world experience. What are you doing differently? And the rumors we heard about GTA 6 that are very interesting to me is apparently they're going to make it so that you can enter almost all buildings. Now, that's a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's like that's on that scale. That's going to be like, and with that level of detail, that might be something we've never seen before. Like, might be the first time we ever see something like that on this scale with this level of detail. And that, I don't think anybody's against that idea, of like, that is a great way that games can progress, where it's like, you go drive around in GTA 5 and the world is so detailed, it's so lifelike, it's so realistic, and it feels real. But then you kind of realize, like, all these buildings, I can only go in some of them, now imagine if you take that, you make it even more realistic, even better AI, even better graphics, but now you can also go in almost every building. I mean, I feel like that does change the dynamic of how this game feels. It feels way more realistic in that sense, way more, I would say, technically impressive. So I think there are a lot of ways in which these games can improve over time, but one thing that I do feel is still true is that no matter which way they choose to improve the games, whether it just be graphics or AI or, scale and scope, it's always going to cost more and more, it's going to cost more and more. So, I do want to move to the final topic of today's stream, though, guys, which talks about the Nintendo Switch 2. Okay? The reason why I'm just like abruptly moving to this is because I don't want to run the risk of not being able to cover it, because sometimes I do that. I wait too long and I run out of gas here with the, talking about the topics, and it basically just never gets talked about. But we have a release date supposedly for the Switch 2, guys. Countless Nintendo Switch 2 rumors have circulated over the past couple of years, but none have nailed down the new console's launch date yet. A few hours ago, the Italian website UAGNA, I don't even know how to pronounce that. They shared the rumor that the Nintendo Switch 2 accessories, first party as well as third party ones, will launch on the market on March 28th, 2025. As such, they believe this to be the release date for the console as well. To begin, we have to take this with a big grain of salt. That said, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. In fact, last month, another rumor pointed to a January reveal and a subsequent late March debut for the console. Just a few days ago, we learned that the date for the announcement of the Switch 2 could actually be as soon as January 8th, 2025. It would be an accelerated timetable compared to the predecessor. The Switch launched on March 3rd, 2017, but it was first showcased by Nintendo on October 20th, 2016. The console was then briefly demonstrated in December, while a proper press event, including the final release date, took place in January. If these rumors are true, Nintendo might be compressing everything into a January unveiling. The console specifications have long been shared and leaked. Says here, it seems that the Nintendo Switch 2 will only output at 4K resolution at 30 frames per second when it's docked. If confirmed, this is undoubtedly disappointing for a new console that debuts in 2025. Although, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you think people are really going to truly be disappointed by a Switch that when, like a Switch 2 that when docked, it's going to run at 4K 30? We have, let's see, RichRod once again. Good old RichRod. RichRod says, if it would come up, Kojima, I hope DS2 flops and you have to live in a studio apartment with Colt Eastwood, you stupid traitor. F your Christmas. Go woke, go broke, butterscotch. My God, bro. He straight up said F your Christmas. I feel like RichRod's under a similar amount of pressure that AAA game devs are that find great success, where every time he goes to write a new message, he feels like he has to top the last one. And he's so afraid if he doesn't, it's he's going to disappoint fans. He's going to disappoint people. Thank you for the donation, RichRod. And I don't know, man. Do you think Death Stranding 2 is going to flop? I don't think Death Stranding 2 is going to flop. No matter how much Rich hates it, I don't think it's going to flop. The Switch 2 should be a 1080p 30-ish handheld and 1440p 60 docked. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the question with the Switch 2, right? Is like how many games are actually going to run at 60? Walking Simulator Part 2. Kojima will deliver. Pun intended? Will I get the Switch 2? I mean, I'm planning on it. Yeah, I would like to. I would like to get the Switch 2. I mean, I don't know how much hype I'm going to have for it, though. I know Mrs. MBG wants the Switch 2. I know she'll play it a lot. She's way more into Nintendo than I am, but I'm going to dabble in it. You know, I'm going to watch the reveal event. I'm going to stream it with you guys. I want to... I would like I have this desire to want to incorporate Nintendo more into the channel, but I am not a Nintendo player. And this is a new generation for Nintendo. So I'm going to try to approach it like a potential customer. You know, one of the things that they want to try to do with the Switch 2 is win people over, like get new people in. And I'm like, listen, man, maybe. No promises. You know, I might tune into that reveal event and be like, that was kind of cool, I guess, you know, and just ultimately really not care. Or I could be like, wow, that was actually pretty cool, man. I'm actually somewhat excited. I'm prepared for either, but I am going to get one no matter what, because I know at the very least, if I don't get much use out of it, this is MBG demands it. She wants it big time. So, I'm very interested to see the third-party games that the Switch 2 gets. That, I think, out of everything, that's what I'm most interested in, because I feel like that's going to determine the level of intensity of competition between the PlayStation and the Switch going forward. Sony would definitely have to care a lot more about the Switch 2 if it gets really strong third-party support. They absolutely would have to care, because I mean, look, I don't know the type of play that Nintendo's going for here, but if they were to play their cards right I don't know how they would do it. It would definitely be a needle they have to thread. Wouldn't be easy, but if they play their cards right, they could position the Switch 2 if it gets enough third-party support. Because there was this rumor, I saw this on the Gaming Leaks Rumor subreddit like a couple days ago. There was this rumor of like a developer basically saying that like the Switch 2 is going to be it's going to be getting more games than people expect. Like it's going to be running more games than people think. It's possible Nintendo could try to, position this thing as an actual real dedicated home console and portable console, man. And if they can do that successfully, I think Sony has to care about that, dude. I do. I think that that's something that could actually hurt PlayStation sales, but that, that's going to be a tough one because, I mean, it boils down to how much Nintendo's willing to lean into the home console aspect, the docked aspect of it, and they would have to push that marketing pretty hard. Where like they're really trying to convey to you, like you play this on your sofa, you play it on the go, but you definitely play it on your sofa. I feel like with the Switch's marketing, they did both, but I feel like the marketing for playing it docked, like it just didn't really resonate with people as much because I think people knew when they look at the Switch, they're like, yeah, I know I'm not getting like 85 to 90% of third-party games. They know that. And I feel like, how much do things change when suddenly you're seeing Call of Duty every year releasing on the Switch 2? Every sports game now releasing on the Switch 2. Like basically every third-party game, almost every third-party game now is getting a Switch 2 version. But these are questions we won't have the answers to until we know exactly what the specs are and what this console is going to be able to do for games. Rachel, you're saying Nintendo makes money selling Fire Emblem bikinis. Didn't Nintendo make money selling cardboard that one time? Wasn't that a thing? Did I imagine that? They did. Was it literally cardboard? Blabo. Ahoy Tyler is saying you got all of them. You're saying, I'll be honest, the Switch is just my Nintendo exclusive machine and maybe indies? I mean, yeah, the one thing that I think does work against the Switch 2 at this point in time is a similar problem that Microsoft has. And it's that no matter how strong the third-party support is that the Switch gets, they are still contending with, at least in terms of PlayStation and Steam as well, but talking about home consoles, PlayStation, you're contending with tens of millions of customers who probably have bought multiple games digitally, if not a whole library of digital games. And they probably have friends, they're used to playing their games online, maybe on that console with their friends. I don't know. There's a lot would have to happen, but if the stars align and Nintendo captures it just right, there could be way more competition. It will have the worst version of Multiplats. Yeah, that's true too, but that's where it's like, I don't know. I find it interesting when we get these like rumors of like, it turns out the Switch 2 is actually going to be doing better than you think. Like it's going to be running games better than you think. It's like, all right, show me, I mean, we'll find out soon enough. But I mean, when I think about a game like Black Ops 6, right? Like if Black Ops 6 were to release on the Switch 2, let's say that's the first Call of Duty game that does, like what will that look like? Doesn't that game run on the Xbox One? What does it look like on there? I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We'll find out. And I'm super interested. But apparently the release date of God, there's like a whole March 28th. March 28th, man. That's the parent release date for the Switch 2. It sounds right to me. I mean, could it be wrong? Sure, but as of right now, it seems like if the rumors are to be believed, we are looking at January 8th Switch 2 reveal, March 28th Switch 2 release. Have we hit the Silent Hill 2 stream goal? No, unfortunately, we have not today. We are sitting at 16 total members for the day. I set the goal at 50 for the members. Because for Sundays, I'm not trying to do members content on Sundays unless it's bonus content. That bonus content will come in the form of if we hit a certain goal that day, you will unlock that bonus content that day. But we will still be doing members content throughout the upcoming week. So there is that. Josh, you don't have to worry about that. Saying all the DLSS in the world cannot save the Switch 2 hardware. I don't know, man. I could be greatly overestimating. what the Switch 2 will be capable of, but it seems like people are kind of torn on this one, man. Some people are like, shit's still going to be weak as hell. Other people are like, no, dude, it's going to do better than you think. I forget where I got this poster, dude. I got to be honest with you. It was like some random website I came across I think it was like a year and a half ago, actually. Digital Dude 25, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. That's very sad. Yeah, I've been through that before. Very sad. Sorry to hear that, bud. DLSS 3 is a big deal. Well, I don't know, man. If the rumor of the Switch 2 reveal being on the 8th is true, that is literally next week. That's literally next week. So we're right. We're right there. We're right on the cusp. Miguel, you're saying it will be capable, plus good optimization does miracles. With DLSS, it will do just fine. I will say this. The Switch 2 is likely to sell very, very, very well. Because of that, developers are going to be incentivized to try to make their games run as best they can and be as well optimized. I really do think that. Apparently, it's going to be $400. That's what the rumors claim. You heard a handheld. The handheld is like a PS4 Pro. When it's docked, it's like a Xbox Series S. That would be interesting. That'd be very interesting. You think 450? I'm thinking 400. 400 sounds about right. I'd be surprised if it was more than 400. You can play Helldivers on your Steam Deck. Guys, I will say we're going to be wrapping this stream up, I think, in about 7 minutes or so. We're going to be going to about the 3-hour mark. So we'll do like a last call for any members or super chats or any fan funding of any kind. Now would be the time to get anything else in here that you want to get in here before we... I do have a... By the way, God, man, my camera distracted me earlier when I went live, and I forgot to say the whole spiel, but just a reminder, man. Can we place bets on this channel? I guess it depends on what kind. Just a reminder for channel members. Channel members gain early access to all videos now, okay? It's been seemingly going well, so if you are a channel member, don't forget about that, but that's another reason to become a member, or if you get gifted a membership, you gain early access to all videos. We're doing more members content than ever before. We just did a couple of members lounges, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, when it comes to making bets on the channel, I don't know. It depends on what kind you're talking about here, man. I mean, I'm really curious about that. Yeah, the frame rate of the Switch. Like, is everything going to be 30? Is everything going to be 30? Because I feel like if everything's 30, people are going to be kind of disappointed. I feel like that could be what stops that console from being a real, true competitor to the PlayStation 5. It's my guess anyway. Times are tough, and if they can still play modern games, why upgrade? You think the 30 FPS is going to be the baseline, and we will see a lot of 60 FPS games? Nintendo games will be 60. Third party will be 30. I mean, that to me sounds like a reasonable expectation. Yeah. First party games being fully optimized, hitting that 60. But pretty much most of the third party stuff being 30 FPS. That makes sense. And yeah, RichRod with the direct donation. Sorry about that, man. God damn, what is he gonna say now? I forgot to increase the price for RichRod, bro. RichRod, you gonna be dropping the same amount of donations if I increase your price to $5? He said RichRod says Colt Eastwood is so ugly I want to melt an Xbox Series S and dip his face in the melting plastic, then make Jez watch him become even uglier. Bro, what? What? RichRod, man. What? RichRod, you need help. RichRod, he straight up says no. Yeah, I'm not reading that part, Rich. God damn it. Stop making me read this shit. Like, I want the donations because I want the support, but why you gotta make me read this, man? Give me something positive. Give me something positive. Say something about the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo won't give its player in-game options. Imagine turning up settings in a Mario game. Nominzer says let Rich cook. MBG, someone got a membership. We actually know. Titus, were you gifted a membership? Finally? Did it finally happen? That's awesome, dude. Yeah, see, I knew this was a thing. I knew it was back to normal. You went months and months without getting a gifted membership, right, Titus? And now you finally got one. I've been seeing that. A lot of people who were previously getting, receiving membership gifts and then like stopped for like 3 or 4 months. Now they're awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Perfect Image got one too. That's great, dude. Yeah, I wonder who the hell is Carlos? Got his back. I really wonder what happened there for a little while. It had to be something on YouTube's end that they changed or fixed. Either way, I'm glad. I'm glad it worked out. Carlos says he's still waiting for his. It's been a while. Well, hopefully soon, man. I do see some people still hoping to get one. But yeah, just keep tuning in. I'm sure it'll happen at some point. Miguel, you still haven't got one? Oh, yeah, guys, by the way, hit that like button. Man, I totally dropped the ball on that today. I meant to ask you guys to hit the like button a little bit more often throughout the stream, but if you haven't already, please hit that like button. It definitely helps the streams. And I see we are just about to hit the 3-hour mark. And Titus Crow with a super chat says, we are so back, boys. Yeah, man. I think we have some exciting times ahead. I do believe that. I think that while we didn't end the year with the GTA 6 trailer, I think that's okay. Because because I think 2025 is going to be very exciting, man. My hope is that it's going to be exciting. A lot of games coming out. Do you see a Dying Light 3? Not anytime soon, because they have that game coming out. It's like their spin-off game, The Beast or something, I think is what it's called. It looks good. I'm looking forward to it. But I think Dying Light 3 is probably a ways out. But Titus, again, thank you for that super chat, man. And guys, I think this is going to be a good spot to wrap today's stream up. Unless somebody wants to drop a 50 bomb right now. If you drop a 50 bomb right now, we will head over to a Silent Hill 2 members only stream. But it's okay. No pressure. No pressure. We got plenty of members content coming throughout the week. Dying Light 2 is a fever dream. Dying Light 2 I had trouble getting deeply into. I feel like I like the... Yeah, we need a 34 bomb, actually. My bad. Yeah, we need a 34 bomb. Tuned out for a while. Sorry, what's the leaked release date for the Switch 2? The leaked release date for the Switch 2 is apparently March 28th, 2025. So the very end of March is apparently when that console is dropping. So the reveal supposedly happening on January 8th. So we'll find out, man. We'll find out. But yeah, guys, I think that is going to wrap up today's stream. We did make it through all the topics here. Yeah, I'm going to be getting a Switch 2 when it comes out. RichRod. You were supposed to ask that in a chat, bro. But it's cool. It's cool. I got you. March 28th is a placeholder. You don't release the last day of the financial year. I mean, all of the rumors are pointing to a March release, though. So if it's not the 28th, it seems like March is happening. Yeah. Only violence in the super chats. Damn it, RichRod, couldn't you just gift memberships? Wouldn't it just be easier for everybody? Dude, RichRod, I'm gonna have to give bro a tax. I'm gonna have to start giving him a tax. The tax is gonna be for every 2 chats of his I read, he's got to drop 5 memberships. This is the only way. Bro's making me read vile shit for $2. 2-month window is a quick turnaround. Yeah, that's what's interesting to me. RichRod Towers 2025. It's happening. Yeah, a 2-month turnaround. I don't know. It is quick, but I don't know. I believe it. I do. I believe it's going to happen. King Sam says, we only have a few minutes to get to 1,150 members, guys. We can do it. Yeah, bro. We could do it. King Sam, I love the hope and the enthusiasm, man. You may be able to get me a discount, Avoid Tyler. Well, we'll wait for the reveal. We'll wait for the reveal and we'll see what the pricing ends up being, and maybe I'm sure you'll be here for the reveal or around that time. And maybe we can make something happen. Cuz I'm definitely not opposed to a discount, you know? May set a price for each curse word. $1 per swear. $1 per swear. But all right, guys. That does it. That wraps up today's stream. Before I head out, I want to give you guys a big thank you for tuning in, for watching. I want to ask that as you are heading out, you please hit that like button if you haven't already. Again, if you are a channel member, you have access to a video that I released earlier today. That video is going to be going out publicly to everybody later. If you're not a member, also want to thank everybody who dropped any direct support. If you dropped any membership gifts, if you became a member, if you dropped a super chat or direct donation, thank you guys so much for that. I'm only able to do this because you guys make it possible. And without your support, without that fan funding, this wouldn't be possible. So big shout out to the community. So there's no Mrs. MBG reveal. I mean, dude, we had to hit the goal, man. We had to hit the goal. You know, I'm it's just the way it is. It's the way it is. A big reveal. It's not something I can just do on a whim, you know? I guess I could, but we still got a little bit of time. We still got a little bit of time, man. But also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. Devil Shooter does the timestamps. If you see him in the chat, or sorry, if you see him in the comments of the stream, give him some thanks. Stay strong on the reveal. We got to stay strong, bro. But all right, guys, please enjoy the rest of your day. That does it. I will catch you guys hopefully tomorrow with another stream and another video, and I hope to see you then. So, all right, guys, that does it. Take care. I will catch everybody in the next one. Have a good one, guys.